All right, guys, first of all, before we get into things, I have to say thank you to Patreon supporter Redhead12 for throwing in, a little bit of dough, a little bit of money, a couple dollar bills here, and requesting this topic for Best in the Business. Guys, you can do the same thing. Head over to patreon.com/jobberradio, become a Patreon member, and hit the tier, give me what I want, and you can choose the topic. So today we're going to do greatest WWE debuts. Guys, do you have a nice word for Red before we get going here?
No, but for everyone else, you guys want us to do Best in the Business guys named Chris? You guys want us to do Best in the Business people wearing yellow shoes? No. You guys want to do, we ain't got no choice. You pay us money, we got to do it.
I mean, that's true.
Best in the Business. Everyone's, who's got purple hair. But no. Best in the Business. Best person named Eva Marie. It doesn't matter. Well, if you pay the money, we'll do the show. It might be short if you ask Best in Business, Best Eva Marie. We don't got a lot of options.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
All I got to say, Red, is you fucking asked for it.
There you go. Yeah, get ready, folks. Scott, do you have any final words to your buddy Red? You actually know Red from the JRPL, so
yeah, Red and I had a lot of fun doing a storyline and stuff, and then I don't know why I could have asked. Probably we could have been like, that's a good idea, we should do that, but no, instead we made Red pay for it. So you too can also pay for things and make us do these things.
Yeah, we no longer take free requests.
Well, guys, as you know, I am currently unemployed, so and I kind of have to make an income here. So this is. I spend probably over 100 hours a week, if that's even possible. I don't know if that math adds up, but I spend more time than you could possibly imagine working on all the Jobber Radio stuff, the website, the JRPL, all that. So, support would be appreciated.
And spend no time other than recording these episodes with Bomber.
Best in the Business guys who's Sonny hooked up with.
That actually,
Best in the Business.
Could be anybody.
That could be a top. We might have to bring that into a top 32, actually. Or
no. That's like a 64
that
bracket.
That is 64. You're right. But yeah. Anyways, guys.
A lot of dudes.
There you go. Enjoy the show. And again, hey, just if you want to be a supporter, you get all kinds of bonus content too. We're gonna throw that out there. Check it out at least. All right. So for real, enjoy the show and good luck. Debut people.
Fucked a lot of dudes even when she was dating Chris Candido. Yeah. Just saying.
Okay, here we go.
Best in the Business. Times Shawn Michael broke Chris Candido's heart.
What's going on, everybody?
You don't like the Ramones?
You fucking asshole.
I'm sorry. I am not a Ramones fan. But everybody, welcome to Best in the Business. We are going to be talking about the greatest WWE debut. We're talking main roster, not NXT, not, I don't know. I guess NXT is the biggest thing people think about. But this is main roster WWE debuts. We got 16 names. We are going to be doing tournament style. And there's a couple factions thrown in there. So we're going to see how they shake down because I know a lot of people are going to talk about Nexus and like things like that. That wasn't their actual debuts. So a lot of this, by the way, we talked about everything in detail, who should make the cut, and it's all in our Patreon bonus footage if you guys want to go hear that. And Scott gets a little testy in there. You guys need to check that out, first of all.
Last week I was angry.
Although we don't bring up Test's debut.
Yes,
don't think that's like a hint.
I totally forgot about
that's
that.
actually, Test. That's,
But yes, I am Jake, a.k.a. Bomber. We got Lee, we got Scott, and we got Rab. Guys, are you ready to talk some WWE debuts?
Johnny Ramone was a
Republican. No, we'll see you next week.
Of course I'm very ready.
God damn it. Every time. All right.
I'm sorry, my internet,
Peanut, yeah.
Oh,
Peanut. Peanut throwback.
Peanut, no.
That's Peanut's gimmick.
Yeah,
you
that's
can't
why we
steal
didn't do
gimmicks.
that last time. That's why I'm not as angry as some of the footage you'll hear, because it's been a week and stuff's better.
Yeah, so, okay.
But I'll still be angry. Oh, we can still yell at each other. It's Best in the Business time. That's what we do.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of names left off the list. Like I said, we discussed them all in the bonus video, so check that out if you haven't already. Guys, I think we should just start this thing off right here, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Match 1, round 1. Let's do this thing. I'll ask you guys, who wants to start this off? Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles. Who had the better debut? Who wants to start this tournament off?
I'll start it off.
Okay, Rab, let's see what you got.
I think we came in with a hard one. I mean, these are two that I'm a huge... Look, Brock Lesnar came around. I think I was, let's do the math real quick. I was 15 years old, which is prime. Watch a guy come in and fuck people up age.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it is.
At 15-year-old, there's this giant, ugly motherfucker with Paul Heyman. And I, of course, was a huge ECW fan. So this giant motherfucker with Paul Heyman comes in the middle of a hardcore match and just starts fucking people up. Just like... Spike Dudley just gets murdered.
The best.
And
who
was it? I just remember him putting someone through a trash can. I can't remember who it was.
Al Snow, I think.
Yes, it was.
Was it Al Snow?
Spinebuster to Al Snow into ages. Everything he did just looked fucking monstrous. And him ragdolling Spike Dudley. I was in prime. Just watch some big motherfucker fuck shit up age. I was all about the next big thing. It was fantastic. I'm a huge fan of this debut. Obviously, since then, Brock Lesnar, you could argue he had the best debut. I would say, even after Ronda Rousey coming around, he probably might have had the best first year of anyone debuting in the so it was a great start to what was a great first year. You know, he became champion before the end of the year, beating The Rock, and and he headlined WrestleMania at the end. So basically, in a year.
Remember,
coming from this debut, it was a great launch point.
This is debut only.
I understand that,
okay,
but I'm saying it was a good launch point for it.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do agree.
On the other hand, AJ Styles, I mean, it was one of those things that you thought was never really going to happen. Even in the day and age, you just go like, yeah, that guy's never coming to the WWE. And secondly, it was a Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble debuts are always awesome. The atmosphere of the place was incredible. I happened to be there, so I'm a little biased on this one. On top of that,
that's gonna be really tough. Then, yeah,
I was there for this one. I think he came out like number 12 or some shit.
Oh, he was number 3. Trust me, I remember 3.
Oh, that was much earlier than I remember. So, that's right, because Roman Reigns started 1.
Yes,
that was when they made the whole Royal Rumble about Roman Reigns, like the whole thing. Like it's all about Roman Reigns.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was incredible. The crowd. I mean, Orlando was the perfect place since TNA had taped there for so long, and AJ Styles had wrestled there so much. And the crowd was incredible, and another great launch point. He was just a fantastic first year, and it was two real good, great starts to these guys' careers in the WWE, and it showed from the beginning. In the end, I think I have to go Brock Lesnar. I fucking love the AJ thing, and it's a personal thing because of how great it was to be there for it. But I think Brock's was just over the top, incredible.
Okay, all right. Well, that's 1 for Brock Lesnar. Lee, who are you going with here? Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles.
Okay, so the Brock Lesnar one, both these debuts are fucking impressive. Like, let's not make any bones about it. Like, both of these guys came in big and looked really great. For me, Brock Lesnar's kind of, in a way, like it's very much, this is how you get a big guy over. It's very traditional. It's newcomer who's big, can kick a lot of ass. You put him in there and eliminate a bunch of people right away. Like, he basically just like destroyed the hardcore division or whatever. Basically is what he did. Yeah. He walked in there and walked over a bunch of guys. And he looked great. Paul Heyman looking about 1/3 the size he is now, which is just weird to see at this point. Really impressive. It really was. It's a perfect way to immediately say, hey, here's a guy, he's a player, and let's see what's next with this guy. Or who's next, as it would be later down the road. With AJ Styles, though, with this is a guy who years made himself the greatest wrestler in the world. Fairly well acknowledged that he was the greatest wrestler in the world for a while. He was a big free agent, and he shows up at the Royal Rumble, and here's how you take a guy to start him at the bottom of the ladder. You want him to be right in the fucking either upper mid-card or main event mix. Rumble, he sort of faces off with several big top guys and looks fucking great doing it. And that's what they did with AJ Styles. And I was much more impressed with what they did with AJ Styles in this regard, because they threw him in there, and he could have fucked up. Like, this could have been really bad. Like, he thrown him in there with a bunch of guys that he hasn't worked with before, and you're looking for, like, memorable Royal Rumble moments, and he looked really good doing it. And all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, AJ Styles is here, and he's a fucking player, and I want to see what he's going to do next. And for me, AJ Styles gets the vote on this one.
Oh. All right. Okay. That's 1-1. One for AJ, one for Brock. I'll jump in real quick. This is also, you know, just like everybody else, tough for me. AJ Styles, I will say this, as a negative for his debut, as good as it was, as memorable as his, you know, the music hit, I still am not happy they didn't show the Titantron, because later on I saw like the I Am Phenomenal. I think they messed up. They may have been the whole point. Hey, we're just gonna want to show Roman's face instead. Maybe
Still kept been done.
Was about Roman that year, so it makes sense.
That's true, but man, I feel like if they show
that's
the
an interesting
Titantron
point that I didn't think about, because I have seen that footage, you know, of what they showed, like what they actually showed on television. Obviously, I saw the Titantron because I was there. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine what would have happened if they had on the Titantron put Roman's face.
I mean, yeah, because when you're watching it at home, you got this music that you've never heard before, and all of a sudden it shows Roman's face. He just looks confused, and then you just hear the crowd explode, and you don't see anything but Roman's face. So I feel, again, that may have been their point. If it was, I think that devalued it a little bit. Because you go back and watch from like crowd reactions and stuff, like you get to see the actual Titantron and everything, and it feels so much better, so much bigger as a debut.
I can tell you, when the word phenomenal hit the Titantron, the entire place just, almost came to the ground.
Exactly. And you could hear it. You just couldn't see anything but a close-up on Roman's confused face. So to me, that hurts a little bit. But when you think about it, Brock Lesnar's debut was absolutely fantastic as well. It was good. He destroyed motherfuckers. He killed everybody. But when I think about which one I remember, I honestly remember AJ Styles' debut more when I think about which one's more memorable. Then I come to... Do
you think any of that is one being, 3 or 4 years ago, and the other one being, 15 years ago, 16 years ago?
I don't know. It could be it, but also I had to go back and see Brock Lesnar's whole thing to remember everything about it. I had to go back and rewatch it, because I'm pretty sure I was watching when he debuted, and it was kind of a big deal. I was like, this is a big motherfucker and everything, but it didn't really hit me anywhere near as when AJ Styles showed up and how big of a moment that felt. And I think it was more that he was an established guy beforehand, as opposed to, obviously this no-name guy that nobody fucking knows and nobody knows who he is. Yes, it was impressive, but I think I'm also going to have to go with AJ. Again, both of these guys are better, really good, but I think AJ's could have been much better if they would have showed better camera angles. So I'm going AJ. So it's 2 for AJ, 1 for Brock. Scott, what you got here?
Well, it's funny because as a 15-year-old, it might have been fun to watch people get fucked up. I can tell you as a 24-year-old, it was also fun watching Brock Lesnar fuck people up.
Yes.
It didn't matter. I actually remember that one specifically because I was at WrestleMania 18 in Toronto. It's a funny side story where I was actually part of my film class. We toured back to Toronto because a lot of alumni are there. So we were there that weekend. We had the Sunday off and let's get the tickets and go. We went that night. It was awesome. We watched Raw in our hotel room, and that's when Lesnar showed up. We were like, who the fuck is that? And I'm like, holy shit, I think that's Brock Lesnar, because I'd heard of this guy. See, I'd heard, I'm like, this crazy guy. I'm like, I think that's him. That's early 2002 internet. I was like, holy fuck. And then he went and obliterated everybody, and it was awesome. In and of that moment, that was great. It got across the idea of this monster that does things. And this is where I'll mention Vader, because it kind of reminded me of that in the Rumble. Bomber wasn't impressed, but whatever. He's not on our list, but Vader did that, where he came in. I knew about Vader. He came in, big guy, fucked people up. It was fun. Brock did that better here. But Vader was in a Rumble, and AJ did that better. So that's why Vader's off the list. I'm cool with that. AJ, you're right. The camera angles were kind of messed up, and they put Phenomenal on the screen, and the crowd's going ape shit. And Michael Cole's trying to cover. Is it? Can it be? when like the logo comes up saying AJ Styles. So it's like they could have done that better, yes. At the same time, what they ended up doing was literally having AJ Styles show up, which was, like you said, the unthinkable, because there he is. He's not going through NXT first, which is the norm now for everybody else. He's in the goddamn Rumble, gonna face off Roman Reigns, the champion, right now, and he could win the belt if he wins the whole thing, and he hangs with him and lasts in there for a while, and it's just incredible. Phenomenal, to use the pun.
There it is.
Yeah, I think AJ Styles wins out in just what his debut was versus what Lesnar's was. Lesnar got across, this is a monster, here you go. AJ Styles got across, here's a world champion, he's going to go toe-to-toe with our world champion, and we're cool with that. Check him out. Yeah, AJ.
Okay. That is 3-1, AJ Styles advances.
Wow, all right. Sure, okay.
This guy.
Not knocking Brock.
This is my that's my Bonner impression.
Well,
Yeah,
you're just
shocking. Wow.
You're trying to
Wow, okay. Not
That
what I
was-
expected. I mean,
All right.
At
Cool,
least
all right,
when,
cool, guys.
when I do it, I'm honest about it. I am honestly shocked that you guys made terrible decisions.
I know.
You,
I love that. I'm shocked that you guys
be
made
shocked
terrible
by
decisions.
that anymore. You shouldn't be shocked.
okay, you have your
Sure.
opinions, and I'm cool with that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, all
So
right.
you got your shit
all right.
opinion. Let's see how we go.
Well,
here.
you did that a little bit even when Lee said AJ. You're like, oh, really?
Well,
There was a moment. There was a moment. I don't know if you caught it, but there was.
all right. So moving
How
on.
glad are we that spoiler alert for the rest of it, Daniel Bryan is not on this list? 'Cause we don't have to have a Daniel Bryan discussion.
I think we had the discussion on beforehand when making the tournament up. Did we not? I think that was the discussion. I think.
Well, Brian just showed up. He's part of NXT. Look, the Miz is his pro. Look,
Yeah.
there he is.
No, but NXT doesn't
Here he
count.
comes.
Yeah.
No, but that's all it was. And then
When he showed up on the thing. Okay.
No, you're right. His debut. This is exclusive. His debut was facing Batista in that cool ass match, or was it
Yeah.
Jericho? I forget already.
I think
but it was a cool match
It
on
was
Raw.
Jericho.
Oh, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, Jericho was on NXT. That's right. It was Batista on Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It was
anyway.
good, but it's like, whatever.
Anyway, moving on here.
If
Match
you want the
num-
rest, you gotta buy it. You
Match,
gotta buy it.
match number 2, round number 1. Eric Bischoff against Kevin Owens. We'll start with Lee for this one. I think you had a lot to say on these guys earlier, so let's see what you got.
Yeah,
here.
this is an interesting one because I'm not a big fan of either of these guys at this moment. I can fuck right off. I don't give a fuck that he had like this. Oh, he's this big power player who's being introduced and stuff. Like, I don't give a shit because that just bleeds into the we don't need more GMs and we don't need more authority figures shit. And it wasn't impressive for me. It was just like, sure, it was a shocking thing to see Vince McMahon bring in Eric Bischoff. Okay, whatever. It's not that shocking when you think about it because Vince eventually buys everybody and brings them in. It's just what Vince does. Came in and he basically did the same thing who is on our honorable mentions list. He came in and fucked up John Cena's shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, straight up he did. And he was still NXT champion at the time. And he came in, John Cena was US champ. I don't need your fucking title. I don't need to face you. I don't give a fuck who you are. This was the badass Kevin Owens. This was the Kevin Owens I liked. He's become a bit of a joke since then, and I haven't really liked much of what he's done since. And we're not talking about what he's done since. We're talking about the debut, and the debut was fucking awesome. Kevin Owens looked like a fucking badass. He was very aloof. He was not impressed with John Cena at all. He got in John Cena's face. John Cena was like talking all this shit, like, you gotta step up and be a man and do this shit. And Kevin Owens was like, fuck you. You don't tell me what to do. I'm fucking NXT champion, and that actually means more than you, the US champ, who's just some old fogey spouting off bullshit. And Kevin Owens fucked him up. So Kevin Owens gets my vote.
Okay.
Bischoff can fuck off and do a podcast or whatever. I don't give a fuck.
Okay. He will do that. He will do that. All right, Scott, let's see what you got here.
Well, this one's interesting because these ones were both mostly talking ones too. Bischoff came out when Vince introduced him, though they kind of spoiled it when Booker saw him backstage. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh.
That made so little sense.
Luckily, when I was watching it, I missed that part because I was doing something else, and they came back, and I'm like, what do you mean they put that
You know, I
beforehand?
did the same thing.
Yeah, it was like, oh shit,
It's the Booker. I only found out about the Booker thing later.
Yeah. So, now it was like, because I consider that intro like it was the bit with Vince. And then his whole speech was great. It was getting across who this guy is, telling his story, what he's going to do, why he's a threat, why this is a big deal. It worked because he was literally having to get across who he is to people who may not have a fucking clue who he is and why it's a big deal. Kevin Owens came out, and it was part of the whole U.S. Open Challenge. And it was like, oh no, who is this? And Cena sold it perfectly, too. Where he's like, oh, fuck. Okay, it's all right. And then Owens came out, and like Lee said, he had a moment where it was like, you want to get ahead in this business, you got to do this. It's like, you don't get to tell me what to do. I've been doing this longer than you have. It was awesome. It was everything great. And he said the line about, I'm a prize fighter. I don't need a prize. I have one. We'll face off. It'll be someday. And I still laugh to this day when they set it up for the Elimination Chamber Network pay-per-view, whatever it was. And everybody was like, there's no way Cena's losing. I'm like, yeah, there is. Yeah, they're going to want him to win. And he did. So, but we're not talking about that part. It's just that moment where he pop-up powerbombed him and stomped on the U.S. title belt, raising the NXT belt. That was awesome. Yeah. That was great. And I like all of that better than the Bischoff one, even though I love that Bischoff thing. The Owens is the better one in that regard. So I go with Kevin Owens.
All right. 2 for Owens. Rab.
Okay. I think most has been said. I mean, the Kevin Owens thing was awesome. 100% awesome. It was really cool. It was, a time when NXT was really, really, really starting to catch steam as far as like the indie guys coming through, and yeah, you didn't expect to see Kevin Owens then just like fuck up John Cena, and he like fucked up John Cena, and it was great. Yeah. On the other hand, the Bischoff one, I will say is, I think of all the ones on this list, the most surprising one, maybe. Like all these other wrestlers and stuff that were going to come through are all either people I didn't know yet, like I didn't know who Brock Lesnar was, or Santino Marella, who's going to come on the list later. But I mean, everyone knew who Eric Bischoff is, and I don't think anyone at any point ever expected him to ever show up in WWF or E. I don't know which one it was at the time. I don't remember anymore.
I think it was F. I think.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
It might have been E already.
It was E. It was E.
It might have been.
It was E. I mean, no, I don't think anyone ever expected that. Coming from where we came from. I mean, it's sometimes hard to remember just how, especially for tons of our listeners, I'm sure weren't around back then, and or were too young to remember just how incredibly divisive the Monday Night Wars were, and the idea that Eric Bischoff, who would talk shit about Vince right on TV, just challenge him to fights and just talk shit about him constantly, would then show up on Raw was, I mean, one of the most surprising things I've ever seen. So while I really like the Kevin one, I got to go with Bischoff on this one.
Ooh, that's going to make things interesting.
There it is. There's that noise. You did it.
No, I'm saying that's going to make things interesting.
No, because he's going to, yeah.
All right.
Everyone's favorite
tiebreaker. It's coming.
Okay, yeah. So Kevin Owens, it was a fantastic debut. I really did, when he stomped on the belt, held his title up, dude, perfect visual. That, like, is ingrained in his debut. Like, that image is perfect. Yeah, and it led to, him coming up. I think, they fought the next week, I think it was, and he actually won, which to me, actually, I think was better than this, which wasn't his debut, so I can't count that, when he actually came in and beat Cena. So I actually think that was better than his debut. But we're going by debuts, and yes, he did stand toe-to-toe with John Cena on a microphone in the middle of the ring, which is hard to do. And John Cena, people talk shit about Cena, whatever, yeah, but he's still good on the mic, in the ring, at all times, he still is. But Eric Bischoff, man, just like Rab was saying, not only was it one of the most surprising on our entire list, I think when you look at the grand scheme of things in the history of wrestling, with Eric Bischoff showing up on Raw, I was absolutely floored. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it was happening. Same like everybody else pretty much during that time frame. I was feeling the same emotions. It's one of the most impactful moments like in wrestling history as far as debuts go, I think. So I think that is going to be very tough to beat on the entire list. I know I hate when everybody like else in our brackets will say, well, this is what I'm going to pick all the way to the end, but I think this is one of the more impactful ones. It might not be the best, it might not be the most memorable, but I think impactful in wrestling history. I think Eric Bischoff showing up on WWE TV was one of the most impactful moments. So I am also going Eric Bischoff for debut.
It's a good thing this is most impactful in the business. Oh wait,
that is true. That is true.
No.
And you know what that means. Okay, so we only have 4 people here. It is tied.
Well, some say the best one is the one you remember the most.
Yeah, I just like how we said it might not be the best.
Well, I guarantee you, if that's what you go on.
No, I get you. No, I'm with you. I'm turning the phrase. That's all.
Yeah, well, you definitely go on most memorable. The vision of them shaking hands, both holding their hands up in the air together. Insane.
I'm gonna remember that till the day I die.
For me, that's I can say at the same time that's AJ Styles in a WWE ring. Also, to me, like it's one of those like I never thought I'd see that. There's a bunch of those on here.
No, absolutely.
That's the good thing about it.
Right.
This one doesn't stand above any, but it's definitely one of the holy shit ones.
You know, I said it when we were talking about AJ Styles that I thought like that's the thing that was never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it could. Thought it was definitely more likely than this one.
Yeah, this was the guy who wanted to kill their company 4 years prior.
I think this was, and we're about to do the coin flip and find out who goes through. But I think this is the one where, after the wars were over and after WCW got bought, where you go like, oh, okay, things are completely different now. All bets are off.
Yeah.
Anything can happen at this point because fucking Eric Bischoff showed up.
Eventually, wrestlers might show up. You get Sting 20 years later. Things like that will happen. But Eric Bischoff wanted to kill the family business. There's no way they'll bring him. Oh, they brought him in. Oh. Like, it was like, that's a different level of thing. So, yeah.
All right, so
who we got?
We have a tie, which means we are going to have to flip a coin. So shout out to justflipacoin.com. I'm going to flip this coin, and Lee, you are our designated caller.
Coin.
Okay, I don't know what that is. So
Lee, I don't get this reference.
I don't either. So Lee, I've
decided that the coin is going to be, it's like a god or something.
Oh, you've made a reference. Oh, he's making a reference.
I'm not referencing anything. I just feel.
No. All right, so Lee, call heads or tails?
Catch on at all. I'm calling tails.
And it's tails. It's tails.
Yes.
That means Lee won the toss, which means he picked Owens, which means Owens advances. So there you go.
Bischoff.
I'm okay with either. Like I said, I picked Owens anyway, but I'd be okay with
You die in podcast obscurity, Bischoff, you piece of shit.
There it is.
Eric Bischoff's out clearing the field for
man.
Storm.
I thought he was. God, I was picturing Eric Bischoff coming from the left side of the bracket.
There we go again.
He's doing it. No,
straight up, Vince McMahon could kick fucking Eric Bischoff's ass in a shoot fight. I don't care how much martial arts fucking Bischoff has.
I don't know.
It would be fun to watch.
I'm going with Bischoff.
I heard them talk about
in that fight.
I think Vince would bite his fucking ear off.
They talked about it on, I think it was Bruce Pritchard's podcast, where everybody was like, "This needs to happen. We need to do the Eric Bischoff versus Vince McMahon." And Vince was like, "Nah, nobody wants to see that." I'm like, no. Yes, we would definitely like to see that. But anyway, moving on. Match number 3, round number 1. The Shield versus the Big Show, or Paul White, whatever you want to say, because he actually debuted under the name Paul White, but later on as Big Show. So. Scott, have you started off yet?
No.
Okay, let's do it.
I hardly ever do. Don't you notice that?
Well, here you go. This is your chance.
This is my least favorite bracket. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's great. The Shield power bombed when they attacked real good, and Big Show came up through the ring and threw Stone Cold through the cage.
Oh.
I don't care for either of these so much. They're not as epic and whatever.
And that's perfectly fine.
Honestly, Big Show was like, "Holy shit, it's Big Show!" And look, he threw him through the cage. That was cool. He threw him through the cage. To this day, people were like, "Was that meant to happen? Was that play?" Like, it's still kind of a people wonder kind of moment. So it's kind of neat. The Shield was literally 3 guys that mauled people. I think people look back on that now in a stronger way because of what they became versus what they did in that moment. It was like, holy shit, what are these guys doing? Oh, those are NXT guys. That was, okay. They fucked a guy up. Yeah, it's 3-on-1, right? It was, yeah. I'm going with Big Show.
Okay.
Can I request to go second?
Sure, of course. Go for
it. So I would say about the Shield, I disagree that it was made to be more later. I remember it being a pretty big deal at the time.
Fair enough. That's me. Like I said, I just don't remember it that way. So yeah.
Because this is the way I remember it.
Yeah.
Like, I can only say from my memory.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Going online afterwards and being like, "Holy fuck!" and other people online being like, "Holy fuck!" I mean, Ambrose. Neither Ambrose nor Reigns, I think, had shown up on NXT TV. Only Rollins had, if I remember correctly. I know Ambrose hadn't for sure. I can't remember if Reigns had made any appearances on NXT. No, I don't think he had because I didn't know who he was.
I did not know who he was
because when they debuted, I was like, "Oh shit! It's Seth Rollins, it's Dean Ambrose, and it's a third guy I don't know." And I was watching NXT, religiously, and I knew who Ambrose was from before, and because I had gone to some FCW shows here, down here. So I had seen Ambrose wrestle, and I kind of knew who he was from CZW.
Hey,
I don't know if anyone else has heard of that. Bomber, you should check it out. I think you'd be a fan.
I'll check it out. I'll just take a look behind me at the thousands of dollars of DVDs I spent on them. I'll do that.
You're gonna look in your laundry room for a show.
The world's largest CZW collection.
I may have that.
It's worth thousands of dollars because each of the 1,000 DVDs he bought comes with $1.
It's the master recordings is what it is.
Oh, now we're talking. I actually have a best of John Moxley CZW DVD over here, by the way. So
anyway, 3 matches on there.
I remember this, but yeah, I remember this very clearly. I remember being really cool and people going like, "Oh shit, that's crazy!" 2 indie guys and who's this? I don't know who this third guy is. Who of course ended up being a very divisive figure, but also a very public figure. I mean, everyone raises he's the figure of all the shows. He's Poochie. At all times, we need to know where he is. But yeah, I remember this being a huge deal. I remember being super into it. It was kind of a smaller, lesser version, you would say, of the NXT debut, maybe. Some indie guys coming from, or some guys coming from this other whatever, grouping together and fucking people up. We talked about it, on the Patreon, why the Nexus guys aren't here. Y'all can check out the Patreon to find out why.
Plug.
Let's plug. Boom. But it was really cool. On the other hand, you have Big Show. Once again, this was in the middle of the wars. This was a enormous fucking deal. I remember, watching, the pay-per-view. What was it, St. Valentine's Day?
Yep, St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
On pirated cable. We had my dad slipped the installation guy like a 20, and next thing you know, we had pay-per-view. So
good man.
It's easy to pirate stuff now, but it was easy back then if you just had 20. And he came out from under the ring. He picked the motherfucker up and he threw him through the thing. And he was real big. And he was from the other show. What's he doing here? He's big and from the other one. It was real cool at the time. In retrospect, it feels less, like a big deal because WCW's not around, and also people switch around a lot. Now it's whatever. Some guy shows up, big deal. Especially these days with NXT, I mean, go look at the Raw roster. Half of it's just Impact.
It really is.
It really is. But at the time, it was really cool especially because you were used to the big guys leaving, WWF and going to WCW, not so much in the other direction. So I think in the end, I am going to go with the Big Show.
Okay. I guess Lee, what you got here?
Over with the Shield, straight up. I thought it was basically the better version of Nexus. In this case, it's actual debuts of the characters, and it's just slimmed down and made more effective. I think it was Ryback they took out, I believe.
Yeah.
They were basically like the henchmen of CM Punk, sort of, for a little while. It was kind of cool when they just showed up and fucked up Ryback and slid out of there really quick, like just very sort of precision hitman like, kind of like just fucked him up and got out of there. It was pretty good. Fucking debut. He threw Austin on the floor, right? So Austin technically won the match, if I remember correctly.
Correct. Yep. Yes, Austin won.
What a big wet fart that is! Like, oh, this new monster debuts and he gives the face the win.
Good
That's
point.
so good.
That's a good point.
It's like, oh my God, it's Paul White. Who the fuck is Paul White? Fuck off. It's fucking bullshit. The Shield was much more effective because all of a sudden there's these new, exciting characters who just fucked up Ryback, who was still at this point a big deal in the WWE Shield. They were just much more effective in what they did with the Shield compared to the Big Show, who just looked like an idiot.
All right. Well, that's 1 for the Shield, 2 for Big Show. You know what? It's my turn here now. I actually was leaning Big Show, but you made some really good points. Man, yes, he showed up. He looked like a dickhead because, yeah, he showed up to help Vince and gave the win to Austin. I mean, that is a really good point. So that really fucked. I mean, See, this is one of those tough decisions for me because I was actually leaning Big Show to pick Big Show for this. I remember his debut more than the Shield's, but again, this is the greatest WWE debut. If you debut and fuck up, I mean, I feel like that should hurt your debut. See, this is tough. This is actually tough for me. This is tough.
Can I know this is your time, Bomber, and I'll agree with you on that he was dumb with it. The idea was he's too strong for his own good. Mm-hmm. That, oh my God, look how strong he is. He broke the cage. But yeah, he still fucked up in doing it.
Yeah, because I was a WCW guy at the time, or I should say kid at the time, and this was fucking huge. It was this is probably at the time, probably in the whole Attitude Era, one of the biggest matches in the Attitude Era. This was Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon in a steel cage match. The match that we've been waiting on forever between these two. This is the biggest match, and he showed up through the ring, which I'll always remember.
One might say it was a big show.
There it is. And okay, I haven't said much about the Shield, but yes, I obviously am a huge Ambrose fan. I followed him through CZW, through all of the stuff. Yes, RIP, apparently. We'll see. Seth Rollins, I knew of him. I saw some of his NXT stuff. I knew he was like NXT champion and all that stuff. I wasn't huge on him. I knew him. Again, Roman Reigns, had no clue who he was. I was excited when I saw them show up, mainly because of Ambrose, and the other guys. When I saw it happen, I was like, oh my fucking God, Jon Moxley's here. Jon Moxley is in the WWE. This is one of my favorite moments. But I still feel the Big Show's debut was more memorable. Yes, he did fuck up and make Vince and himself kind of look like a penis, but but it's really tough for me. It was more memorable. So you know what? I'm just going to go, I have to put my foot down, and I'm going to say I'm going with the Big Show because it was a more memorable, impactful debut. Did he fuck up? Yes.
Fair enough. So
yeah, what?
So Big Show was the penis and Vince was the grapefruits.
There you go. And,
yep. Again, most impactful. We're going with it.
And I don't know what that makes Stone Cold because he kind of got shot. He got shot out of the ring.
If you don't remember the debut, it wasn't that good.
And
it can't be best if you ain't remembering it.
I don't know what that's a reference to. Did somebody say that earlier? But I remember both of them. So either way, I'm gonna go Big Show. That's 3-1. Big Show will advance. I feel dirty for voting against the Shield and against Ambrose, but it was just not as big.
And now he's gone from this list, just like he's gone from our lives.
Apparently, he'll probably.
No one will ever see him again.
Never. You know how that goes in wrestling.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yep, he lost on his way out, and wait.
Renee is getting that dick every night.
All right, so Tazz versus Chris Jericho. I guess, Rab, you want to go here? You want to start this one off?
Sure.
Yes.
So Tazz was really cool. It was really good. It was a good one that people remember.
I feel sarcasm coming out of this.
It was a good one. Don't you remember where you were when Tazz came out?
I 100% do. I was sitting on my little beanbag chair in my living room watching this.
It was really good.
Euphemism for something? Or?
No,
really...
totally. Just sitting
sitting on my beanbag chair. That's a good one.
I think it was a blue one, like made out of look like leather. Anyway, sorry to.
No, I remember Taz's fine. I mean, he had all the vignettes with the tattoo and stuff, and once again, big ECW guy, so I was excited. But I remember my friends being like, "Oh my God, it's Goldberg!" I'm like, "No, it's Goldberg." Yeah, it's gonna be Goldberg because he's got the tattoo. I'm like, "It's different. It doesn't look the same. It's a different thing." And also, it's not gonna be Goldberg. It's gonna be Tazz. Like, we don't know who that is.
Comes out and he's 4 feet shorter. it's like wait a minute.
I just remember all my friends in middle school thinking it was gonna be Goldberg. They happened to be like, "Nah, dude, it's not. It's Tazz. It's gonna be Tazz." Like, it's Tazz. Everyone, like, it's everything on the internet, and just everyone just being very disappointed it wasn't Goldberg when it was eventually not Goldberg. But it was cool, came out and hurt a guy. It was fun. Look, most of these guys came out and hurt someone.
I should not have chose you first. I can see.
Jericho's, on the other hand, is my pick for the whole thing. You did earlier with Bischoff.
I did not do that. I said I hate when people do that.
Yes, you did.
You literally did.
I said it's going to be very impactful.
I hate
you literally said I saw it going all the way.
You said I don't like it when people say it like all the way. But Bischoff, I think, is the
I was trying to slide in. I don't want anybody to do this at any point.
Yeah, but you did it, you dick.
Well, I guess.
Literally to do it.
Well, that's
sliding in like a date rapist, for fuck's sakes.
I was, I did my best. So okay,
fine.
so
let me pull it back. No, I don't know, but I think I get a feeling that Jericho might really go far on this list, and that I would vote for him maybe most of the time. Who knows? I don't know.
See,
which one's Jericho again?
That's different. See,
that's what I'm saying now. Just cut it together.
Nope.
Just snippy snip.
Nope.
And no, Jericho's obviously he came out right on top of it because just coming straight up against the top guy. He also had a lot of vignettes to build him up, and then finally the clock hit 0, and here comes this guy, and he goes head to head with one of the top guys in the company, and I think it is the best one ever. But it might not. I might not keep voting for it. It might not keep going on the list.
I hate you so much.
I'm supposed to somehow explain why I'm voting for this, but not mention when I run up to the one that I do think is the most, the most impactful and also the best done, and just also the most entertaining one ever done. That to this day rings true.
Well, we'll see.
But I'm not supposed to say that.
We'll see how everybody else
I don't know.
votes.
This is it's a tough one.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going with Jericho. That's one with Jericho. Thank you for that. Okay, so I'll go next. Tazz's debut was actually a pretty big deal. I remember it very vividly. I really despise Kurt Angle. I believe he was undefeated at this point in his debut because he was a good heel character, not like despise like I thought he was bad.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he was a very, very good heel character and very early in his career, which was very big for him. By the way, he is also not on the list, which a lot of people actually thought he would be, but he is not.
No, his debut was shit.
That's because they forget his debut.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, his debut was he just showed up.
Yeah. So anyway, Tazz showed up, Royal Rumble. I think it was in Madison Square Garden. I may be wrong on that one, but I think it was Madison Square Garden.
It was.
Showed up under the towel, looking like a badass. I wasn't that familiar with Tazz. I did watch some ECW, but it wasn't. Tazz didn't seem to be prevalent whenever I was watching. I don't know when that was, but I think it was maybe after this. I don't recall. But anyway, the debut was big. He came in, he gave Kurt Angle his first ever loss. Choked him out, middle of the ring. I was like, holy fuck, this dude is the real deal. That's just how I remember it. It was a big deal. I think it opened the show. I may be wrong on that one as well, but either way, I do remember Tazz's debut was very good, I believe. Chris Jericho's debut, I mean, what else to say? It was very big. He came out. There was the whole mystery behind what is this Y2K thing? What are all these little vignettes and everything going on? And it happened to be fantastic, like the production value of where like the lights went out and then the pyro goes off and then it has him on the ramp with the arms out. Super memorable. If you haven't seen it, because there are some people out there that still haven't seen this yet, the younger fans out there, it needs to be watched. Go back and watch it.
That seems next to impossible.
I promise you, in our Discord, they talked about this Best in the Business episode. They said they'd never seen this debut. So
fucking children.
A bunch of them had not seen a lot of them.
Yes.
So
this is one that needs to go back.
I understand not seeing like some but come on.
Yeah, I understand if you haven't seen Tazz. I agree. But Chris Jericho's, you need to go back and watch. I also, yes, I am picking Chris Jericho's, but maybe Tazz is going to find out to be it's underrated because I think it was a very good debut.
Okay. I did say, I definitely undersold Tazz's. Yeah, it was a big deal. Yeah. Just because he was coming from ECW and it was on, the pay-per-view and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. I was underselling it just because it's, in my mind, so dwarfed by Jericho's.
Yeah, and sure...
also there were so many debuts around this time, and we're going to mention some other ones soon. Not just Jericho's, which was around the same time, 6 months earlier or so. It was good, and it was a big deal, but it wasn't anywhere near the Jericho level. I will say though, it was you're right. It did open the show. We did one of our old segments where we used to like talk shit at each other. I don't remember what it was called.
I think that's just the whole show.
What was one that we just picked random things and then we would go. It was like a debate one.
The Raging Roundtable, I think.
That's exactly.
Where we picked something that we did not like or something. That was going on.
And why haven't we done that in a while?
It died. Whenever we rebooted the podcast, we just never brought it back. Actually,
I want to yell at people.
There you go.
What are you talking about? We definitely do those for mini shows, like small.
Who knows? We might.
Whatever. That's a good idea. But yeah, when we did that, I picked Royal Rumble 2000 as my favorite pay-per-view, the greatest pay-per-view of all time for the WWE. So I mean, yes, this was a good part of a great show. So I don't hate on that either.
Okay. All right. Scott.
It's. So yeah, Tazz, like I said, I was iffy on Tazz being on here, but it's one that I can easily get behind at the same time. It was a good debut. Angle had been running his mouth for 3 months, I think, since November or something. This was January, so Angle's there doing his thing. Mystery opponent doesn't care who it is. Madison Square Garden goes ape shit when the music starts. They know it's Tazz. Howard Finkel kind of ruins it by saying from Red Hook, and then Tazz comes out and then actually says it. So similar production thing to AJ. With that, I remember. So it kind of spoiled it a little bit, but it was still happening in that moment. But none of that matters compared to Chris Jericho, because that is still one of my favorite all-time wrestling moments ever. Oh, God, it was just ridiculously perfectly well done. And this is where the key part of the debut is what matters, because then he came out and had a SmackDown thing against Undertaker and Big Show, and then it was just jaw-jacking with Road Dogg for like a month and going nowhere. So you can fizzle it after your debut, but yeah, the debut was great. He came out Monday Night Jericho, doing his silly WCW stuff with his shiny jacket and just going back and forth with The Rock. It was great. It was classic, and he kind of got his ass handed to him at the same time. That's Jericho. That was the character at the time. The music, the pop, everything was just perfect in that moment. So I'm going with Jericho.
All right, one for Ted. Oh no, Jericho. Okay, Lee, who you got here?
Yeah, so as his debut was pretty goddamn strong. He just came in and fucked up Angle shit. Looked really good. The whole video package, everything they did with him was really well done. So you couldn't complain really. Like, he came in as strong as you could kind of book a guy like Tazz, and you put him up against Angle, so you got a guy who's not that much bigger height-wise than Tazz. Like, that's one of the crippling things about Tazz, is that he's just so goddamn short. But here he was only, like a couple inches shorter than Angle, so comparable, and he matched up really well with Angle. And Angle was already so good at this point that, and it was just a really good, like debut match, like fuck Angle up and hoist him up on his own petard or whatever, kind of thing. With Jericho at this point, like Jericho's debut is the epitome of taking a perennial mid-card guy from WCW and turning him into basically a main eventer. It's a big fucking deal. He's got the fucking Beastie Boys backed fucking soundtrack thingy going on. Was it actually the Beastie Boys or was it just like a ripoff? I can't remember.
It sounded nothing like the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not sure.
It's definitely not the Beastie Boys. My confusion is that it even sounds like the Beastie Boys.
I mean, I can hear it. I just don't. I'm the only familiar with like one Beastie Boy, like two Beastie Boy songs. So
I know what you're saying, but I would put money on it not being Beastie Boys.
No, there's no way it's the Beastie Boys.
No, it's not the Beastie Boys, but I had that thought of like white boy rap with like metal.
Oh, that, yeah.
Oh, like Linkin Park.
No, fuck off.
It's definitely closer to Linkin Park than the Beastie Boys.
It's a white guy rap.
Really not. But no, Jericho's debut was just super fucking awesome. They put him out there. He talked shit to The Rock. He stood up in the mic with Rock, and it was just like strap a rocket to this guy from the get-go. So, Jericho.
All right, clean sweep for Jericho, first of the tournament so far. All right, going to the other side of the brackets, we got The Undertaker versus John Cena. Scott, why don't you start us off?
Oh, you give me a good one, okay.
Yeah,
The Undertaker came out as just the random mystery partner for Ted DiBiase back in 91. And was like, okay, this is a guy that looks impressive, and commentary was like, we don't know about this guy, but he's a thing. They made a big deal out of the gate. And he goes out there and he murderizes Coco Beware and beats the fuck out of Jim Neidhart for a bit before getting counted out with Dusty Rhodes. Okay, he's uncontrollable as well. That's a problem. It was a lot of fun, and again, we're basing it purely on that. Nothing else that happened afterwards, so there you go. It was with Brother Love, I believe, too?
Yes.
Which was just weird, but all right. And if I remember, I still to this day remember them calling him Kane the Undertaker that first night. But they've like might be a Mandela effect where they didn't really call him that, but I swear they did.
I know the plan was to be Kane the Undertaker originally.
Yeah, because that's when they called Kane later. It was like, hey, they're using the name again. So there you go. Anyway, John Cena came out as just some random dude to fight Kurt Angle. And it was like, hey, this guy can go. Look at this. Look at how impressive that is. And I almost got you by that much. And again, we're not going to talk about anything else this guy did. But it was a fun, competitive little match that showed that Kurt Angle could do anything. Not to sell John Cena short, but he was world champion for a while and still not viewed as that good, even though he's actually been criminally underrated for a lot of his career and actually is good. But whatever. This is hard, and I'm literally trying to be biased, or not biased against Cena, because Undertaker is my favorite. But in that moment, I'm like, that guy's cool. He's a neat villain. He's bad. But John Cena was like, well, I like this guy. This is fun. So they had similar, I was about to say impactful moments on me, and I didn't even mean to, Bomber. You made me do it now.
No, it's fine.
I blame you for that.
You can use it.
No, it's bad. This is the most impactful in the business.
Yes.
I honestly think that the moment itself, Cena's was better than Undertaker's in the moment of what they were getting across at that time. Even though both were very much like, this is an up-and-comer that's going to fight in tooth and claw, and it's going to work, and he can go with the big dogs, versus Undertaker, who's just like, this is a monster. You can't even control him. He's that crazy. It's... For what it was, John Cena ended up floundering later, and Undertaker went on to do whatever, and then Cena became what he is, and so did Taker. But we're not talking that. It's that moment. And I think the rocket on John Cena's ass, not knowing who he was whatsoever, like it's one of the better of that type. Like, we don't have Snitsky on here, and he was just a random dude who fought Kane, and it became a thing. So it's like, that's what this kind of moment was, and is one of the better ones of it. And ignoring everything that came after, just this idea of like, hey, look who this guy is. Oh, look at that. He made a name and everybody talked about it to the point again, this is now doing it wrongly, but to the point now that in Angle's last match is 15 years later, people wanted that moment again with him and Cena. So it's like, it was that good. Taker just kind of beat up some guys back in the early 90s, which was a thing, and it was good, and it was one of the better ones, but hey, I still like Cena's better, so right. I'm going for Cena.
One for Cena. Rab, who are you going with here?
All right. I definitely...
You want to wait?
Can you not hear me?
No, you're good. You seem like I caught you off guard.
No.
Okay, cool.
All right. I get what you're saying. I was still thinking about, like, maybe it kind of sounds like Sabotage. You know, you got kind of guitar in the background.
Oh, my God.
Guy screaming in the front.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you kind of see it, but that's not really... That's a very abnormal Beastie Boys song. Most Beastie Boys songs don't sound like that. But
I like their
I was still thinking on that. That's why I got distracted.
The only one I remember is Intergalactic.
I was listening to Lee when he was talking just now.
Okay.
I did the thing. From
you did the... it's the gimmick.
It's gimmick time. Okay, no, seriously. So, I mean, I definitely a couple times have there's bias as to the things that you saw and you remember. I don't remember The Undertaker's debut. I was just too young. What year was that? That was 90, right?
90? Oh, God, it was 90. I said 91. No, it was 90. You're right.
I was 3 years old. I was 3 years old and definitely not watching Survivor Series. So this is not one that I remember. I've seen it many times. I've seen the pay-per-view many times. I'm fully aware of it. But it's there's almost a recency bias, and definitely looking at different things through different eras. And when you look back, look at this guy. He's big. He's big. That's really what the commentary was. Not hating on legendary commentators, but it was like, look at him. He's a big guy.
Look at the size of that guy. Exactly. That was Bobby Heenan.
That's a big dude. That's really the whole thing. And obviously they say it a little different. They're much better than me at this. But that was the gist of it. Like, this motherfucker's big. Here's a big guy. As if we're not talking about wrestling, There's a lot of big guys. He ain't the first big guy. There have been bigger guys before. But he's big, and he's got the music, and he's wearing this really stupid outfit. He looks super dumb. His look definitely got better as time went on. But it's definitely, I honestly feel that if The Undertaker had, turned into nothing, this would be a forgotten debut. If the Undertaker had gone the way of, like, Mordecai and shit, people would have forgotten about this. Honestly.
Very interesting.
I really think this is one that hangs on who the person ended up being more than how great the debut itself was. Because it's The Undertaker. I mean, fuck, it's The Undertaker. Anything related to The Undertaker is important just because it's the fucking Undertaker. But as a moment itself, it could have been anybody because he's fucking walking out there just being big, and then wrestling the match and doing very well and
so
that's honestly how I feel from being removed from the time that it happened. I only have hindsight. Mm-hmm. They say hindsight 20. That's all I have. I wasn't around for this. I don't remember it. I don't.
So okay.
The first time I saw this had to be 12, 13, 14 years later. The first time I saw the whole thing, not just knew about it.
So who you
on
got?
The other hand, Cena is one that I remember, clear as day, and I remember how impactful it was. And people, I had heard of this, this guy, the Prototype. I had heard of him more or less, but I didn't really know who he was. And I had, I remember when the guy came out and the ruthless aggression thing was a huge thing. That was what the new era was supposed to be, and here came a guy who was supposed to embody it, and he had a really good match with Kurt Angle, a really good match, especially for a guy you'd never heard of before. And how much that was Kurt Angle's fucking amazing? Probably a good bit, but it was a big deal, and I remember people talking about it for a long time, and like Scott said, it's impactful enough that all these years later, with Kurt Angle retiring, people were like, well, that was his debut match, and that's such a, that's John Cena's debut match with Kurt Angle is much more remembered than Kurt Angle's debut match, or debut at all.
Sure.
To the point that when people are thinking, how do we want to bookend Angle's career? Let's throw Cena back in it for one last one. It's a very, very impactful, very memorable, and very good. It was done well. We're talking about done well in the business, and it was done well. So I'm going with Cena.
All right. So I guess I will now jump in there and I'll go. Man, Cena looked like the most generic motherfucker you've ever laid your eyes on. Let's be honest.
Nah, bro, he was big.
He looked, I swear to God, when he walked down to the ring, I was watching this live. He walked down to the ring, and my first thought was, who the fuck is this jobber? I swear to God.
His very own words, Johnny Boots and Tights.
Exactly. His hair looked fucking stupid. He had, obviously, he was built. I'll give you, he was definitely in shape.
His tights were terrible.
All
his gear was bad.
This is probably an incorrect statement, but I have hardly ever seen somebody look so generic in my life, besides the muscles.
Do you not remember when Randy Orton debuted not long after?
Orton looked generic as fuck as well. He wasn't.
Would you say Cena was the prototype for the generic?
Get out of here. So, yes.
I'm sad I didn't make that joke. I've been doing those all night.
Yep. So, Cena, yes. The fact that he came out and he shook his head in ruthless aggression. He gave the whole thing. That was memorable to me. Yes, I do remember that. The match, I remember being decent. I don't remember a whole lot from it. I actually don't remember much from it. I assume he lost, right? He did not win. I don't even remember that.
That was the story.
No,
He's like, I almost got you by that much. He held up like the inch fingers. That close.
Yeah. Got you this close. That was the whole thing.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, here's the funny thing. I watched this before we did this. So that, I think, to me, that says a decent amount. Undertakers, of course, I didn't see this live. I saw it afterwards, much later. Again, I watched it for this show here. And the crowd, to me, is the most telling thing. The crowd, I remember, like, they were talking about how the crowd was scared. The crowd was, even if they weren't, they did a good job, to me, pointing out and making it feel like this dude is making the kids cry in the crowd, and, like, everybody's petrified.
They had to cover up why the crowd was so quiet. Oh, they're all shocked.
Yeah, because obviously this big motherfucker came walking out. They didn't know who he was.
I'll argue a bit there. It wasn't just to cover the fact up that they were like, who the fuck is this guy? That was part of the plan. It's like, get this guy over. He's scaring the kids. He's a scary Undertaker duel thing.
It's just really funny. That's they play. It's just a funny way to play it. They're all real scared. That's why they're so quiet. And
I really
emoting.
And I think Scott's right. I think that no matter what, they plan on saying that. But to me, that made it feel a little bit better. Made it his character, because that's everything his character was about. He was supposed to be this giant, menacing, I don't know about menacing is the right word, but dark.
I think menacing is a great word.
Okay, well, there you go. A menacing character that's supposed to strike fear in their eyes, and that's what he did. He had the dark eye makeup. He looked fucking legit. I actually loved his outfit. I don't know about it.
Terrible.
It was way better than Cena's. Oh my God.
He's right.
Cena's looks generic and kind of crappy. Taker's looks legit bad. Like it's a negative.
Looks like a Halloween costume you buy at Walmart.
Nowadays, yes, but again, back then that was like the real deal.
No, it looks like it's left over from a local production of what's the one where the barber kills everyone?
The
Sweeney Todd?
Sweeney Todd. It looks like it's left over from a high school Sweeney Todd production. It's real bad.
Anyway, back in the day, I'm sure it was a good fucking outfit.
It wasn't.
I'm sure it was. Anyway, bottom line, I actually don't really care too much for either one of these debuts. Cena's look and the way he talked and acted, he was making his debut, obviously, so he wasn't going to be this hotshot dude, but it just didn't do anything for me. Undertaker's, at least there was like this presence there that you just felt, and it felt eerie. And yes, he didn't, he wasn't a sole survivor or anything, which that I feel could have made a bigger debut, but he didn't take a pin. He didn't submit. He got counted out. They kept him strong, and he looked good in the match. So overall, I think I'm going with Undertaker. I just feel like it was a little more, here it is, impactful, and a better debut, I think, than Cena's. So, all right, Lee, what do you got here?
Well, I did see the Undertaker's one on pay-per-view live when it happened.
Oh.
Impressed with it when I was a kid, I will say that.
Were you crying? Were you scared?
Scared, no. I was sitting watching with my grandfather, and I'd already been very deeply initiated into wrestling at that point with my grandfather, where he was always swearing at the referees, calling them crooked motherfuckers and cocksuckers and shit like that. I learned a lot of my swear words from my grandfather.
Amazing.
While watching wrestling.
I love it.
Specifically.
I love it.
The origin of Lee, this is the best debut.
Yeah, this is great.
We were both impressed with The Undertaker, definitely. Like, it seems like, yeah, his costume looks fucking lame. Like, it's stupid as fuck. But at the time, it wasn't so out of bounds and stupid for considering the environment of the WWF at that time. It was very gimmicky and very cartoonish anyway. Undertaker, we can't talk about what comes afterwards, so we have to talk about the debut, because if you talk about what comes afterwards, kind of a sea change in a way for a lot of the stuff in the WWF at that point, because it gets super serious with his character, and it gets, kind of dark, and it's like, wow, this guy could maybe choke some motherfuckers out and kill them and shit, legit. But his debut in that match, killed Coco Beware, doesn't mean anything. He beat up the Anvil, that means slightly more than nothing. And then he's gone. So that's not even necessarily really keeping him strong, but good. But John Cena comes out against, at that point, a Kurt Angle who is like the fucking, as far as like a professional wrestler who's at top of his game. And he holds his own with him. And I think you couldn't think of a better debut for like a newcomer who comes in and has his match. He loses, but he looks really good doing it. I gotta go with John Cena on this one. He just looked more impressive for me. And I'll agree, I don't think either of these debuts are necessarily great. This is the slightly better one.
Okay. Cena will advance 3-1 over The Undertaker. Going on next, we got Kane versus Santino Marella. I guess, Lee, how about just kick this one off too?
Santino, Kane goes through. Like, fuck. Wait. Santino Marella is just like, oh, the Sicilian Sensation, or where the fuck you, or Milano Miracle.
Yeah, Milan Miracle.
Whatever, he's not even Italian. Fuck him.
I don't want to ruin this for you, but Kane isn't really from hell.
But you know what he did? You know what he really did, though? He really ripped the fucking door off a cage and beat the fucking Undertaker's ass. And that's what true. Goes through on this.
Okay, all right. That was a quick one. I like it. All right, so one for Kane. I guess, Rab, let's see what you got, since you're already going here.
I'm definitely going to go with the Italian. No, that's not true. Actually, I didn't like Santino Marella. I didn't like Santino Marella's debut at all. I remember just being so like, oh, there's a plant in the ring, and he's from here locally because we're in Italia. It was so gimmicky in a way that I was just annoyed with at whatever age I was when this happened, 17 or 18 or what, I don't remember anymore. I was not a fan of it. In retrospect, fine. It's one of those things that you do in wrestling sometimes. But at the time, I just thought it was super gimmicky and annoying. On the other hand, Kane's, I think, is one of the all-time great debuts. It was built real well. It was just the whole story behind it was built so well that when the debut actually happens, it holds real strength and real water. So I'm sure I'll keep talking about it later, and y'all will talk about it. So I'm going with Kane.
All right, that's 2 for Kane. Scott.
Well, to Rav's point there, like it's got to be Kane. It was built up to that point where it was who else could this be? it was that, right? Like that was the whole thing. Santino is our version of the out of the crowd debut. That's why Nicholas isn't on here. Others like that. It's like, no. let's be honest. We're not going to put more than one of those. Like that's how we're doing these.
Oh my god.
I know Bomber hates Nicholas, but anyway, Santino was a better debut than Nicholas too, because it was for a singles title and a higher prestige one, and blah 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 blah. The Santino thing was this whole drawn out comedic thing where he ended up as part of the Lashley Umaga feud, and no holds barred, so Lashley helped out and he won the title, and oh my god, with his silly red shoes. And yeah, like that moment, that Italy crowd went ape shit. It was pretty great, not gonna lie. But it's fucking Kane. He came out, he ripped the cage off the cell, which people were like, oh fuck, we're gonna put a roof on this cell, that way no one can get in. Oh god, he's ripping the door off. Who the fuck? Like, it was just, yeah. Kane is one of the better debuts there's been in that sense, I feel. But Santino, like, not for nothing, it was kind of amazing in its moment, but I'm still going for Kane over that.
All right, 3 for Kane. So obviously my vote doesn't matter, but it would also be for Kane. Santino Marella's, I didn't know clue who he was. Obviously, I knew he was not a real fan from the crowd. Obviously, let's be realistic here. But it worked on me. I thought it was a pretty cool moment. I was on board. Oh, okay. Bless you. Bless you. I was totally on board. I thought it was cool. I love Vince McMahon's hat. He was wearing this fucking hilarious looking hat from what I remember. Hopefully that's the right thing. I hope I'm not messing that up.
I think
he was bald at that point.
Yeah,
I think someone is allergic to your ass kissing.
Well, I was dying over that.
Who's that? Am I kissing Santino's
No, that was me coughing.
ass?
I moved the mic away.
Oh.
No, because Vince and Lashley and Trump had their storyline.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and he was bald, so he had to wear the funny hat.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad I was making sure I remember the right scenario. Yeah. But yeah, I love the hat. Santino moment. It was fun. It was memorable. I'll give you that. But Kane's moment was huge. It was. Undertaker was obviously one of the top guys. You got the Hell in a Cell. This was the first ever Hell in a Cell. And it was so just him ripping the cage off, the door off the cage. So good. He looks scary as fuck. Obviously, I'm going Kane too. We'll talk about him more in the next round. Kane gets the clean sweep over Santino Marella. So moving on, we have Goldberg versus the Radicals. I don't think I've went first yet, so let me jump in and say you're about to hear a lot of hate for from Goldberg's debut, so let me be the first to say that I did not hate it so much. No,
you say hate. Dislike does not mean hate.
Okay, sorry, dislike. Sorry,
We've always had that issue with you. Oh, dislike. They're going to hate on it. No.
Okay,
let's clarify that.
You're going to hear some dislike for Goldberg's debut.
There we go.
So I actually liked Goldberg's debut. The Rock was killing it, and he was killing it in the ring. The Rock was, of course, on top of the WWE at this time. Goldberg comes out in his Harley Davidson jacket. I always remember that because my dad and my mom and dad are huge. They love Harleys. My dad has several he's a big Harley guy. So I always thought, I don't ride motorcycles, but anytime I see Harley, I think of my parents. So anyway, that was a fun moment. He came out, he did the whole from the back, came down to the ring, and fucking speared the fuck out of The Rock. Yes, there wasn't much else to it, I'll give you that. But the fact that WCW's arguably biggest star that they built, definitely from the ground up, definitely no doubt about that, but one of their biggest stars ever, finally showed up in the WWE or F, whatever it was at the time. To me, that was a giant moment because I was more of a WCW guy. So I think, to me, that was a very good debut, personally. Now, let's go over to the Radicals. Again, another jump from WCW over WWE. I wasn't the biggest technical guy as far as like I wasn't huge into Benoit. I definitely wasn't that big of a fan of Dean Malenko. I did like Eddie and Perry Saturn. But I don't know if I ever said this before, but I just really never liked Dean Malenko. He just seemed super boring and terrible to me. But anyway, their debut, it was simple. It was effective. It was on some Monday Night Raw. They jumped, I think it was the New Age Outlaws, I believe. They jumped them, hit their finishers on them, and then they left up the ramp. So, I mean, it was good and effective and pretty memorable because it was 4 guys debuting at the same time. Kind of like the Shield, just a group debuting all guys at the same time. So, this is where it gets interesting. I have to pick one or the other, and I'm actually going to go for Goldberg simply because I hated the way the Radicals' debut ended. They jumped. They were in the front row watching the show. They attacked the New Age Outlaws. They were provoked and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. And they left up the ramp. Their music hit. Music played. They left up the ramp. What kind of shit is that? I didn't like it. I thought that ruined the whole debut to me, personally. So, at least Goldberg's was a little meh, wishy-washy, but I still think it was better than the Radicals. So, I'm going Goldberg. I'm going Goldberg on that. Scott? Oh, I hear Scott mumbling.
Yeah. I don't remember music playing, to be fair.
It does.
Okay. But them walking up the ramp was literally addressed on commentary going, where the hell are they going? They're walking up the ramp. They don't even work here. Where the hell are they going? It was like a power move kind of thing. So that's why they did that. Now, let's hate on Goldberg.
Okay. Wait, I thought you said dislike. Let's dislike on Goldberg.
Okay, so Goldberg, I'm not going to hate on it. No, it could have been better, I think is what we all kind of agreed to if you buy in our Patreon. It was the day after Mania, same as like Lesnar, honestly. It was the same thing. Day after Mania, Rock had his match. He's doing his thing. And Goldberg comes out. And it was one of those, oh my God, it's happening moments. They did advertise it in a badass promo on WrestleMania that Goldberg would be a Backlash. No one has realized he would be on Raw, too. You like the Harley Davidson jacket. He wore that because the shirt he had underneath, he was so dissatisfied with the merch, they had to cover it up.
Really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, he thought it was shit. You never actually see that shirt anywhere. He didn't like it at all.
That's funny.
So, yeah. So it's like, it wasn't that great for him either. It was fine. He came out there as like, oh, so you're next, eh? Like, it didn't get across the badass ass kicker. It was way too casual for what it was trying to be. But at the same time, he's trying to reach out of his character and do his things. Honestly, pretty much every other Goldberg return was better than that in its own way. That's not why I'm judging this one low, but this one could have been so much more, because I remember watching going, oh my God, it's Goldberg. Huh. Like, it was like, that's neat. It finally happened, but okay. I guess that's his, okay. It didn't, God, I hate this bummer. It wasn't impactful enough. You son of a bitch. The Radicals, now, again, Malenko, yeah, okay, I'm not the biggest Malenko fan. Honestly, Malenko's not one of the biggest fan favorite types out there. Let's be honest. But at the same time, fucking love Benoit. Holy shit, he was world champion, finally got it. He was awesome in WCW. It was great. Eddie's super cool. And Saturn's also there. So, those 4 guys, when they were in the crowd at the start of Raw, I remember specifically hearing these guys left WCW. They called the bluff. They walked out. But they can't be on Raw tonight. And then they were on Raw. I was like, what the fuck? Like, it was a Bischoff moment. But I literally, like, they got me. I marked out. It was like, oh my God, they're here. And they just destroyed who was in the ring. It was great. I always preferred that one. I always liked that one a lot. I don't remember the music playing, so maybe I got nostalgia vision on it, but fair enough. But I never had a problem with that part of it, them walking up the ramp, because they came in as 4 guys, and we were like, all right, we're going to show you how it's done. We got a point to prove to you and to WCW. I loved it. So the Radicals. That's my pick.
All right. Lee, who are you picking?
Fucking Goldberg. So he came out and he speared The Rock. Kind of a wet fart, really. disrespectful as far as I'm concerned. Not at the level that you would expect from someone like Goldberg. He just came in and right from his get-go, I think, like he just, like, why is he coming out and talking to The Rock? He should have came out and just speared the fucking Rock and left. That would have been way better. It would have looked way better. Instead, he had to sit there and do a shitty promo that wasn't all that good. Then he speared The Rock. Great. I recapture Jericho versus The Rock on this, and it just wasn't happening. You just didn't have the same level of talent there to do that sort of exchange. Radicals came out, and they're sitting in the crowd. These are three guys they're naming. These are three former champions from WCW who are, like, guys that people want in their fucking company. And the story behind them is they're at the WWE now because they're looking for the real competition. They're looking for the big leagues. They're looking to...
This is where the big boys play.
They're looking to fuck some shit up, and they fuck some shit up. You couldn't hope for a better debut as far as that's concerned, because they're just sitting there minding their own business, but at the same time, they're all business. They're sitting there, minding their own business and professional, and New Age Outlaws get in their face. It's like, we're gonna fuck you up, you jokers, you fucking New Age Outlaws. They suck. So, the Radicals have to get my vote on this one.
Okay, that is 2 for the Radicals. Rab.
So I think the biggest problem with Goldberg's debut is part of it's the debut itself. Yeah, he shouldn't have come out, cut a promo. He should have just come out and, just Goldberg get up and just start spearing some motherfuckers, as Randy Orton would say. I don't know if you've ever seen Monday Night Wars where Randy Orton just starts talking about how much he loves watching Goldberg spear some motherfuckers.
I have not seen that.
I have not, but now
it's real great. Watch the Monday Night. I can't remember which part of it was, where they're interviewing Randy Orton to talk about, like, and he was a WCW guy growing up. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, there was nothing like watching and they censor it. There's nothing like watching Goldberg come out and just spear some motherfuckers.
Nice.
It's so great. You could see the enjoyment in his eyes, the light in his eyes, about how much a Goldberg guy he clearly was. And that's what it should have been, It should have been, I mean, they did most of it right. Walking from the back, though there was no police, but walking from the back and then, coming out, people were yelling, chanting Goldberg, but he should have just speared him. I mean, so you're who's next is a pretty good line, I gotta admit, but the rest of it was kind of whatever. It wasn't terrible. I wouldn't say it was bad. I mean, it does have a problem of being 2 years too late.
Yes, that's
a whole different thing. You can blame that on whatever you want, and theoretically it shouldn't change it, but it did change it. Because we had already seen so much crazy shit happen at that point, and people come over and whatever. That by the time I mean, NWO had already debuted, and any number of things had already happened by the time Goldberg came around, and it just felt a little late. It just didn't have the same impact that some of the other ones have had. The Radicals, on the other hand, I remember this like it was yesterday. Just so clearly of seeing these guys in the front row, and I must have missed the on that one. 10 or whatever, 13. No, it was 13. When I was 12 or 13, where when I saw them in the front row, I was fucking side myself. I was I was a WF guy, but I would watch. People might not know this, who are listening. The shows didn't come; they only overlap for a part. WCW started earlier.
Yeah.
So, sure if you're a real, if you were a real wrestling fan, you would, even though you don't like WCW, you still had an extra hour of wrestling you could watch. So you would watch the first hour. And this is where a lot of, Eddie and Benoit and stuff would get their segments because, they weren't old guys with great contracts. So they would end up a lot of time on the first hour. And I was a huge fan of Benoit. I was a huge fan of Eddie's. Perry Saturn and Malenko were fine. But, I mean, you can imagine as a young Latino kid, loving fucking Eddie Guerrero. So seeing them in the front row was fucking ridiculous. And then, and the guys are talking, hey, these are free agents, it's funny. back, when we went through the hottest free agent phase in the last few years of them hearing them use that same terminology for the Radicals. Yeah, here's some free agents here, but then, a guy spills into their laps, and next thing you know, all hell breaks loose and they fuck everyone up. Yeah, it was amazing. It was incredible. I was a huge fan of it. I'm a huge fan of it, even looking back and rewatching it, and that's definitely what I'm going with.
Okay. That is 3 for the Radicals and 1 for Goldberg. So the Radicals advance to the second round. So we go to our final match of round number 1. We have Paige going up against Diamond Dallas Page. And no, if you're wondering, Paige and Paige, this was not planned. I don't think DDP was originally on this list. Again, not getting into too much detail. You got to go listen to Patreon and find out what it replaced. But this is actually a swap. So it just happened to be Paige versus Paige here. Yes, Scott, do you want to start us here?
Sure. I'm trying to remember who it did replace.
I know. It was one of my suggestions.
Ellsworth?
No, we're not gonna. We'll talk about it. They gotta go listen.
All right.
Yeah, go listen.
So Paige versus Paige. It's kind of funny. Paige, the girl, literally came out of nowhere. NXT champion, didn't even have the belt the day after WrestleMania, which a lot of these are day after WrestleMania. We're noticing here.
Mm-hmm.
And beat AJ after the division couldn't, and won the title. It's one of those debuting with the title win things, like we mentioned Carlito in our honorable mentions, and Santino did it, and Nicholas did it too. Bomber, get over it. But Paige, like the look of shock on her face, like, I pulled this off, and oh my god, and it really sold it. Like, this was anything can happen. It's the usual post WrestleMania thing. It was really, really well done. DDP, or Paige, the guy, his was kind of because they changed the storyline. And he was the guy revealed. So his debut was revealing that he was the stalker of Sarah, the Undertaker's wife, at the time. He was not the original plan for that, but that's not what we're talking about. He was the one who was doing it. The storyline was him all along. And the crowd goes like, holy shit, it's DDP. When he takes it off. Like, of all the people to stalk Undertaker, this makes no sense. He's a 3-time world champion. What the hell is he doing this for?
Yeah.
It was kind of like, what? So the storyline-wise didn't make sense, but that kind of worked too, because, oh shit, what the hell? And I loved the line, make me famous. Like, that was the thing. Like, you'll make everybody famous, make me famous. It was great. I loved it. So I'm going with DDP simply because that was nobody saw it coming, and it still worked for me, even though it really should have been Raven. It was planned for Raven, blah, 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 blah. In that moment, I really loved it by Paige because it was a true shock and oh my god, holy fuck, of like, not only was it DDP, but holy shit, DDP's here. One of those things. So yeah, it really worked for me. So yeah.
All right.
Not to undersell Paige. Paige's was a lot of fun and it was good. One of the best of its kind, but I just like DDP.
Also, just point out, I'm gonna let Lee go first, but Paige. Female Paige is the only female on the list here, so that's kind of a big deal in itself, by the way. So
Lee's going second, not going first.
God damn it, you know what I mean. Second.
Yeah, you do it a lot. That's why I bug you.
Second, Lee, who do you got here? Paige or Diamond Dallas Page?
I really don't give a shit about.
That's why I like this bracket overall. There's some ones I'm like, don't care.
I mean, not to sound super sexist or anything, but all I give a fuck about Paige is how good she looks naked.
Oh my god!
Yeah, but what about Girl Paige though? We know about DDP.
Yeah, so that's yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
sorry. I had to get that back. Sorry.
It's, you're not wrong. Fucking Paige felt like Gail Kim 2.0 to me, and full for me as Gail Kim winning the world title is just like, I don't give a shit. Both of them are really talented, and I think Gail Kim turned out to be one of the best female wrestlers in the world for her time. But who's this and what's going on? And it's like, I don't care about women's wrestling anyway at this point, to any degree. Tease is so weirdly constructed and wrong-headed, you saying that Raven was the original choice for that makes way more sense to me.
I believe that was the original plan. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And they do that. That would have been so much cooler. Like to see Raven do like a hardcore match with the Undertaker. That would have been something.
I believe it's just that Raven got on Vince's bad side or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like he almost before this was this when Raven almost like destroyed a WrestleMania by driving a golf cart into the
was 2001, so this was a few months after that.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, you fucked up, Scott Levy. Sorry. I gotta say DDP's is more impactful because it's like, what the fuck? He is all of a sudden this scummy fucking stalker dude for some reason. Like at the same time, it kind of works because he started as Diamond Dallas Page, the scummy fucking dirtbag fucking manager who became a wrestler and shit. And if you followed him all the way from his beginnings, it kind of works. But at the same time, it's still weird, but it's still impactful. So I gotta go DDP. It's the one I remember the most. Like Paige is like, whatever.
All right. Rab, I know you have a lot to say. Do you want to go next or you want to go last?
Why would I have a lot to say?
Before we started recording, you seem to have a lot to say about this one.
I have a lot to say all the time.
Okay, well, I'll let you go last then. I'll go next. DDP's was extremely memorable. Like we talk about like things burned in your memory and stuff. When he reached down and ripped the mask off, and the look on his face, like he was his head was tilted back, and the eyes, dude, that was amazing. Yes, the whole story is what it was, but that vision, that debut, everybody freaked the fuck out. I was one of them. He's another guy that I did not see debuting. I did not know the Raven stuff. That's actually cool. I wish they would have done that. But either way, this at that moment in time of the debut, very memorable. I did enjoy it. I was hoping. I love DDP as well as a lot of people familiar with WCW love DDP. And I was totally on board until they fucking sank that ship. Looking over at Paige's debut, I was not a big NXT fan at this time, and I know Paige was very big in NXT, I believe, at this time. She came in. I honestly did not really know much about her or who she was when she came out to talk shit about AJ. By the way, when I went back and watched this, I didn't remember Tamina was in there. In the ring.
Yeah, she was the muscle.
Oh my God. I was like, first of all, she looked totally different than she does now. But I completely forgot Tamina was...
She has different hair.
Yeah, okay, that's one reason why she's different. But I totally forgot Tamina was even in there during this. But
even
anyway,
back then, she was a worthless non-entity.
There you go. But I think the debut was very memorable. There's a few people on this list that showed up and actually won a title in their debut. A very small amount. And Paige is one of them. And AJ Lee had a very long title run. I believe she was just talking about over 300 days or whatever it was. She was probably, I think, listed as or known as one of the top Divas champions ever at that point. Everybody just knew she was the best. And in comes Paige, who had the reputation of being a very good wrestler, came in. She actually did a decent job on the mic. It wasn't it wasn't great. I will say that. But she did a decent job on the mic and then put on a pretty good match, won the title. The look on her face, the moment, that's another one of those. You could see how genuinely happy she was. And it was a very memorable moment, and I think overall, when you look at the two debuts, I think I'm going with Paige, the female, for the better debut. Just as an overall, it was just a better moment. The only thing I remember from DDP's is really the look on his face when he pulled the mask off, and I just don't think that holds up against Paige's debut. So I'm going with the female version of Paige. So, Rab, now is your turn.
So, first with the female version of Paige. I mean, yeah, there was some talk before, y'all can hear it on the Patreon about whether or not Paige, the female Paige, should even be on this list, which I honestly think is ridiculous. I mean, I think of the last 10 years, it's one of the bigger debuts. NXT was really getting going at this time, getting quite a fan base, and she was one of the big parts of it. When she debuted, you can hear the crowd. The crowd is very much into, the music goes off, and they're all like, "Oh shit, it's Paige! Paige is here!" I get it. It's women's wrestling. Y'all can have opinions as you want, but just it was a big deal. And then she came out and she won the title in the end. They didn't have the best match because they didn't have a lot of time. The match itself was only like 5 minutes. I actually saw on my Facebook, history or whatever, not a couple weeks back of when I had commented, "Oh, I wish they had given them more time because the match was so short." But it was a big deal. It was a huge deal. And it was, she was, the first woman that really made the jump from NXT to the main roster, and it's the beginning of when the quote unquote women's evolution really started. It kind of started around here, and with this debut. So I mean, the idea that it doesn't even deserve a place on the tournament is I don't understand it even a little bit.
I thought it started with Sexy Star. I thought that was
oh my goodness,
where the revolution started. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That was a bad joke. Sorry.
She's very stupid. She's
sorry,
a stupid
you can continue. Sorry, my bad.
No problem. It would have been funny, but no one laughed.
I know.
Yeah, no one laughed. No one.
I thought I was going to get a chuckle. They're laughing at me.
I was holding on that. I was like, yeah.
They're laughing at me.
I was
not with
working
me.
for a comeback. I didn't have anything.
Yeah, it's all right. There's always next time.
On the other side, you have DDPs. I always liked DDP as a kid. I thought he was cool before he showed up in the WWF. We've talked about it a few times. Everyone's mentioned it. The storyline is stupid. It was dumb. I mean, even leading up, because we don't really want to talk about the stuff that happened afterwards, but afterwards it was still stupid. But even leading up, it was just dumb. It just got to be too much, and it was to the point. Like, you can hear when when he comes out to the Undertaker's music, and here comes a guy on a bike, but he's wearing a mask. Everyone knows, like, oh, this is the guy. It's going to be the whatever. But the crowd doesn't sound. You don't get this feeling from the crowd like, oh my God, who is it? Who's it going to be? Could it be? You don't get that from the crowd. Everyone's just kind of sitting around like, all right, let's see. Now, when he pulls the mask off, you can hear the entire crowd go like, holy fuck, it's DDP.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And all three of you have mentioned it. There is this moment, and I had the same moment, just like, who's it going to be? And it's funny because we talk about how much of a better storyline it would have been if it was Raven. And that's true. But it would have been a much less, good debut if it was Raven. It's Raven. This is the kind of thing Raven does.
It would have been like, oh, the expected storyline is continuing. Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
And
overall, it might have been better, but that moment wouldn't have been the same. Yeah.
You would have been excited to see where the story goes. Well, cool. This will be a fun thing, maybe. And you'd have a bunch of people who are just like, I don't give a fuck about Raven. I've seen him job out too much. Who gives a fuck? And he had been in the WWF already, and whatever. But because it was, when it was DDP, it was just it was the craziest fucking thing. I mean, was he the first guy to come from WCW after this was not long after they got bought out.
No, I think he was, because it was before King of the Ring, and that's when Booker attacked. So I think he was the first one.
I think he was the first one. I don't remember exactly, but I think.
And it wasn't even like a WCW invasion. It was just like,
it wasn't part of the invasion.
DDP's
it was the first guy who showed up.
Yeah.
And it was a amazing moment. It was I think it was one of those where you go like, oh shit, this is real. It would have been. If Goldberg had taken his mask off and it was Goldberg, everyone would be like, oh shoot, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what happened with Goldberg. There is a timing problem there. But DDP, it was like, oh shit, it's fucking DDP. It was just shocking, beyond shocking, and surprising. Not as much as Bischoff, but it was incredibly surprising. But I would still say it was just so messy. I mean, the mask off is really cool, and you remember that. But it was just so messy that I would say Paige had a better debut, and it was a really big deal, and it kind of set the stage from where we are now on the women's scene. So I'm going to go with the female Paige.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we have a 2-2 tie. Only our second tie here in the first round. So that means we are going to the coin toss.
Gone.
God damn it. All right, so Lee, I am hitting the button. Lee, call it, and I'll stop clicking the button.
Tails.
It is heads. It is heads.
Fuck.
Heads is. All right. So that means Paige will advance. The female version of Paige. We don't have to keep saying that anymore now that DDP's out.
I will say that this one was close enough for me that I was glad that my vote was going to make it to a tie. It was like a cop out for me.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Motherfucker.
So,
and of course, for those wondering, yeah, Ronda Rousey's not on here. Her debut was she pointed at the WrestleMania sign.
That's true.
Right. Like a lot of people like, oh, sure, her debut. No, she walked out and pointed. No.
All right. So, guys, this is it. Round number 2. Let's get started. So, we got AJ Styles going up against Kevin Owens, who made it through in a coin toss. So, we're going to see how that factors in here. Rab, I guess let's start with you here. AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, who had the greater WWE debut?
I mean, this is easy for me. Though I didn't pick either of those guys. I picked the other guy on both of these.
That is true.
But the Brock Lesnar one was a much closer pick for me over AJ. That was real close. Eric Bischoff was a no-doubter over Owens, and I gotta say, I'm taking AJ Styles no-doubter over Owens. Owens was real cool. It was a good debut, a real solid debut for a guy. And it was real awesome, and it's one of the ones that you'll go back and like, oh yeah, that was awesome. But like AJ's is an all-time great debut. So I'm going with AJ.
All right. Lee.
Really strong. This is a bit of a tougher pick for me, but impressive as Kevin Owens looked in his debut and like kicked ass in the Royal Rumble. I mean, he didn't win it, but fucking good, and it basically just established him as a top-level player. Like, here's a guy who can compete with all of our top guys. Styles immediately kind of wins it for me on this one.
Wait, sorry, you cut it right at this last second. Who advanced?
AJ Styles wins it
AJ?
For me on this one. He just looks like a guy who immediately was like, yeah, he's at the level of all of our top guys. So
okay. Scott.
Pretty much the same. Owens was a cool debut. He came out there and it was wondering like, can he hang with Cena? Everybody, even though they loved the debut, thought it's a shame he's going to lose to Cena. Like it didn't really win people over yet. AJ came out there against the reigning world champion Roman Reigns in the Reigns Royal Rumble. Yeah, it was just stronger out of the gate about what this means for this guy and this guy going forward. So I thought it was the better showcase debut, and it shows that sometimes you don't need to put them through NXT. Just sometimes they're good. Just have them go on the main roster. Not everybody can do that, and he's like the only guy that has, aside from Gallows and Anderson, and Gallows was there beforehand, so that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, no, it got across that message loud and clear.
Okay, that's 3 for AJ. So I guess again, mine's irrelevant, but I am gonna go with Eric Bischoff here. I think Eric Bischoff still had the better debut.
What?
I know. I'm kidding. No, I would have voted Eric Bischoff over AJ, by the way, but he lost to a coin toss. So I'm gonna have to go with AJ Styles here as well. Again. Same as you guys, I'm not shitting on Owens' debut. It was solid. It was pretty good. I still think his next week was better when he beat Cena, but AJ's moment was way bigger. It was just bigger.
Let's be serious. Owens' debut established him as solid upper mid card contender, whereas AJ Styles' debut immediately established this guy as this guy's a main event dude. He's gonna hang.
Yep, that's a very good point. That is a very good point. So yeah, AJ is actually going to sweep Kevin Owens in the second round, moving on to the third round. So up next, we got The Big Show, Paul White at the time, making his debut, against Chris Jericho. Scott, who are you going with here to kick this one off?
Not Big Show, because that's Chris Jericho.
Okay.
Everything you said about Jericho, like Big Show, I kind of went, sure. It's Chris Jericho. It's, like I said, one of my favorite wrestling moments, and it's one of the best debuts. Big Show came out, looked like a goof. So did Jericho, for the record. But
Sure.
Jericho's was much cooler in how it was done. So if you go by those merits, Jericho. But no, Jericho's by and large. I will always remember Chris Jericho's awesome entrance and the music hitting and everything coming out and the way the crowd goes nuts for it. Big Show coming through the ring had people going, what's going on? Like, there was almost confusion, which didn't work as well for it. Then they realized who it was and it was a thing. But it if anything, Big Show's was overshadowed by the fact that it was Austin versus McMahon in a cage with the WrestleMania title shot on the line. Jericho was staring down the Rock and going to go toe-to-toe. So...
All right, so yeah, he did come out to that Beastie Boys soundtrack. That was good. That was a good one. No, I am gonna go next.
Fuck you.
I was waiting. Again, I was like, man, are my jokes just super shit tonight? I guess so.
Yes.
God damn it. All right. Well, at least
but you give us an opener.
At
like
least
that,
there's some laughs happening. At least there's some laughs happening. So, okay, I'll go next.
Don't worry. We're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you.
Hey, laughs are laughs. That makes me happy. Okay, so Big Show. I will say this: Big Show's debut, as I said earlier, was at one of the biggest moments in that entire Attitude Era. It was the Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon big cage match. Everything was leading up to this match. St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Talk about the perfect, biggest stage to debut on was in that match, and the Big Show did it. And I will never forget that debut. It wasn't, yes, we already talked about he kind of looked like a penis. He lost the match for Vince, but I will never forget that debut. Chris Jericho. It was as far as moments, yes, extremely memorable. He showed up. The Titantron was fantastic. It was a great mystery behind that debut, kind of like his code breaker stuff that he did, which was super memorable, by the way. I love that whole putting people on a mystery, trying to decipher the code. That's one of my favorite things during that time frame of wrestling, was the whole code breaker, where people were literally deciphering the codes and stuff. That was fun.
Well, we'll save that for best comeback.
Oh, there you go. There's another one. But this one, this is a little bit tougher for me because Jericho's debut, I think overall was better than Big Show's, but I think Big Show's moment was better. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody. So this is all in my head right now. So I have to pick one in the end, and I think I am going to go with, literally, it's the greatest. That's what the name of this is, and I have to go with Jericho. But I do think Big Show's moment is one of the biggest on this list. Yeah, I'm going to go with Jericho as well, but I think Big Show's moment was very huge.
You said something during that where you said it made him look like a penis.
Yes.
Is that a Southern thing? You said that earlier, too. Look like
He
a penis.
said it a bunch of times.
Right? I've never noticed that before.
A Southern thing? How would that be a Southern thing?
Because I don't understand the euphemism reference.
Well, it's like kind of like, oh, he looked like a dick. It just, instead of saying the word dick, he looked like a penis. I don't know.
But is that something other people say, or is that just you?
I've never heard anybody else say that, but it might just. I don't know.
Thank you, Rap. Thank you. You're with me on this. You understand?
I am.
I don't think I've said about anybody else except for Big Show in his moment.
No, you did. It's true. You said about Big Show earlier. He likes them big. It's fair enough. He likes them big penises.
Yep. So anyway, that's 2 for Jericho. Lee, who you going with?
From Bomber's Freudian slips here. Whoa!
Oh man!
It's a fuck no!
Oh god!
Jericho all the way.
I thought you were gonna. Oh, you swerved me, bro. You swerved me. I was about to scroll up there and put a little 1 next to Big Show's name. All right.
That's what I do, bro. It's sports entertainment, bro.
There it is. All right, so that's 3 for Jericho. Rab, gotta ask you, who you got?
Oh, for sure, I'm taking the guy. Who knows who I'm gonna pick? So cagey about it before.
Yeah.
What direction I was gonna go.
Cagey. That's a steel cage. Must be.
Yeah, it's steel. Exactly.
Oh, you guys.
Oh, so
say penis next. Is it the penis guy?
Is it that big penis?
It's not the penis guy.
It could be anything. It could be no. Obviously, I'm going with Jericho. Though it's funny that you mentioned his other debuts or returns or whatever. I've actually seen him debut twice in person, or return twice in person. Really? I was there for the when he debuted after the Save Us Y2J Codebreaker one. I was
there. You were there for the Codebreaker one.
I was there for his return on that
cool.
one, and I was also there when he returned. And it was like the end of the world as we know it, or what? It was like those weird. There's like everyone thought it was like about the Undertaker or something. It was a kid.
Where he came out all happy and didn't say a word and turned heel during that. It was great. It was so good.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. So yeah, with that, Jericho's going to get a clean sweep over the Big Show 4-0 there. All right, moving on over to the other side. We have John Cena going up against Kane. I guess I'll go first on this one. Again, I didn't like John Cena's debut that much. As far as the look, the feel, and everything, I just took him as a generic guy he could have been a local dude with muscles to me at that point. Yeah, he did have speaking lines, but it didn't blow me away, which is kind of why I picked Undertaker over Cena. But Kane's literally, man, what a fucking debut. What a debut. Everybody was freaking out. Came in, big moment, deciding factor in a Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. How much can you say about it? Kane to me gets the advance here for my vote. So 1 for Kane. Scott, what you got?
This one is a bit honestly tougher than Undertaker and Cena, I think, because Cena, like I said before, was kind of a show he can be a player, show he's going to be, I don't know, a threat to the mid card, but he can go with the top guy. So what can he do? Where will he go from here? This is his debut. It was good in that sense. Kane just came out there and ripped the door off and beat the fuck out of the Undertaker. That's also good. It wasn't in the match, but it was more memorable in that sense, I think. It's got to be Kane. Sorry,
okay.
I had to say it again.
And that's 2 for Kane. Rab.
I'll be the second person to make the "It's Got to Be Kane" reference.
Oh,
it's got to be Kane.
I feel like
Does it gotta be?
I feel like I missed out.
It's got to be.
All right. So is that that's just your vote there? That's what you got?
Yeah.
Okay. Lee, who you got here? Kane or John Cena?
Cena's time is up. Kane's time is now.
Oh my God. These people are the worst. All right, so Kane gets a clean sweep over John.
I mean, I thought John Cena was untouchable.
All right, here we go.
Word life.
Word life.
Let's move on here.
I got you.
This one should be actually a little bit more interesting here. We got the Radicals going up against Paige. Rab, how about you start this one? Oh, I hear you chewing. Lee, do you want to start this one?
Wait, is it my turn?
Oh yeah, I said Rab. You start this one.
I was so.
And then I heard a couple.
I was chewing ice so loudly I didn't even hear you say my name.
There you go. Okay.
Because I'm a professional.
It's fine. So I guess we
Rock
will
salt or something. Jesus Christ.
We'll go with Rab then Lee. That's what we'll do. So Rab, go for it.
I mean, I'll go quickly. I was a fan of both of these, but I think the Radicals is easily one that, I mean, it's more impactful to me personally. Mm-hmm. So there's some bias there. Though I also really liked Paige's, and was a big NXT guy back in the early days of NXT the way it is now. But the Radicals is an all-time great thing, and with Eddie Guerrero and he who shall not be named. And it's all good.
You can say Perry Saturn.
Yeah, I was about to say you're allowed to say it. He had Moppy. Which
good joke, Scott.
I think that's the.
Hey!
I think yeah. I'll go next.
Oh wait, he said.
Oh wait, no, fuck Lee. I said Lee was gonna go next. Sorry.
I'll because I wanted. It was more important for me to give Scott credit just to take it away from Bomber making the joke first than it was for me keeping the gimmick going.
That makes sense. All right, so Lee, who do you got here?
Oh, you're horrible.
I think I know.
Radical.
Yeah.
So the Radicals were composed of dudes.
Oh God, no.
Which immediately make them more superior to women.
I like earlier you literally said I'm not going to be sexist, or I don't mean to be sexist. Maybe that's what it was.
At that point I didn't, but now I do.
Oh, no. Dear Lord.
Here's the thing.
Spoiler alert: you were sexist before too.
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing. There was more talent in the fingertips of the Radicals than there was, semen splooged on Paige's title belt.
God.
So the Radicals have to go through on this one, and that's all I have to say about that.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, all right. That's 2 for the Radicals, I guess. I will say it's 2019. We'll see how long we can go with Lee being sexist before we get shut down by somebody, some radical.
I do not stand by this. Actually, right. I think I'm gonna boycott Lee specifically.
There it is.
Don't worry, everybody out there. I got you. You don't have to boycott the show. I'm boycotting Lee.
So you both.
It's not a new thing.
You both sided with the Radicals already. So I'm gonna go next. Again, I think Paige's debut. The only thing I really didn't like about her debut is. Well, there's nothing. I should rephrase that. There's nothing that I didn't dislike. It's that her weakest point was when she was on the mic. She wasn't great. She wasn't, she didn't stand out on the mic, but she was okay. She was decent. And the moment was way bigger, I feel, than the Radicals moment. The Radicals, they came in, they attacked. That was cool. That was big, but I still feel like they botched isn't the right word, but I still feel like they kind of fumbled the end of their where they had the music playing, they went up the ramp. I know Scott said they tried to cover it up. I feel like they probably I still feel that was a dumb move. I still feel that was a dumb move to have them go back up the ramp. They should have went back through the crowd. I mean, I feel like that's a no-brainer to me.
They intimidated everyone. They intimidated the guys in the back. It was like, hey, fucking truck guys, give us a theme song right now or we're gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, but
and they knew it instinctively because it was man instinct. Like Paige is like, who gives a fuck? She's a chick.
Man instinct.
Jesus Christ.
Now, if they would have shown something like them going into the truck or something and saying, "Yo, like give us some," like that would have been somewhat decent. They literally had the music playing before they even touched the ramp. I don't know. I think that Paige's debut really didn't have any faults in it. And I feel like the Radicals did fumble at the end. So I'm actually going to pick Paige for my vote here. So that's going to be 1 for Paige, 2 for the Radicals.
Head move.
Well, we'll see. We could have a coin toss here. Let's see what Scott says.
Radicals.
Oh, okay. Well, that was...
See, Scott's a real man.
Nothing else.
He knows.
There's not much else to say beyond it. Like I said, Paige's does work well for what it was, but, I mean, there's a bit of bias here, but... The moment with the Radicals was just great because Paige, I knew who Paige was, and I'm like, well, what's she matter though? And it wasn't because of anything beyond, oh, it's some NXT champ. Okay, neat. Oh, she won! Holy crap! That was cool. With the Radicals, I came out of my chair when they hopped that rail. I didn't do that when Paige won the title. So
that is a very valid. That is a good point. That is a good way to look at it.
I can just put it that way. Yeah.
Sure.
It was still like, oh wow, holy shit, that's cool. But it wasn't losing my mind. So
okay, all right. So with 3-1, the Radicals advance to the semifinals. So we are down to the final 4. We have AJ Styles, Chris Jericho, Kane, and the Radicals. So first up, let's just get right into it, guys. We got AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho. I guess, you know what, Lee, let's start with you on this one.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is actually, I think both these brackets are pretty fucking tough. Think about this for a second.
You want us to come back? We can have somebody else start if you want.
I just want to think this out. I think both of these guys, in a way, are kind of comparable because athletic ability, similar style. I think both these guys are world-class motherfuckers, and they were at the top of their game when they came in. And I think you can kind of argue both of these guys even got better as they came in and sort of matured into the company. Wow. Still I think I gotta give a slight edge to AJ Styles just because his debut physical credentials. It was like, here's a guy who's coming in and he's gonna fuck people up, and you actually see him do it in the match. Whereas Chris Jericho, he's just talking shit. And I mean, it's a great debut. He's talking shit. He looks great. He's holding his own with The Rock. But went in there and he's like, his whole persona sort of comes through. Like, here's the indie guy who's the professional, who's the world class motherfucker. big free agent, and everyone fucking knows it. And he just goes into the Royal Rumble and fucking kicks some fucking ass and has to get this one.
All right. That is one for AJ Styles. Rab, who are you going with here?
They're both very good, but I think, honestly, I don't really have to put much thought into taking Jericho over AJ. AJ is good, and I think, Lee made some good points. But Jericho's, it was less rock, more talk. But and I didn't mean to make the rock reference there. But no, it was less about showing what he can do and more about showing what he can do on the mic versus in the ring. But at the same time, I think the story that night and about it, you came out at the end of that pay-per-view going like, or at the end of that show going, oh shit, Jericho, and everyone was talking about Jericho the next day. AJ was just one part of the bigger pay-per-view, and even that one, it was a Royal Rumble match, obviously, but it was just one part of everything. It wasn't even the most dominating thing of the day. Maybe it was for some people, and maybe it was, for a lot, that was the coolest thing we saw that day, but it wasn't like the biggest thing that came out of that night for the storylines. Well, I think Jericho's, was to me, it's the greatest debut of all time.
Okay. I if I can just interject for a second here, and it's probably going to undermine my choice, but I think Rab makes a good point here about Chris Jericho's talking, and Chris Jericho showed up at a point where important than in-ring. So it's like about who can shit talk better. No, and Chris Jericho, so that I do respect that choice. That does work.
Okay. Scott.
This one is really hard, and I kind of I never saw this one coming, and I'm like, ooh, okay, these are two really goddamn good ones. To the points what the guys just said too, Jericho debuted, and it was like, all right, you think you're hot shit, we're gonna show WCW that they had you wrong. Go out there and talk with The Rock, the best talker that we have, and hold your own. Okay, and he did. And then AJ's like, oh, he's the best wrestler in the world. Cool. Go out there number 3 in the Rumble. Wrestle with Roman Reigns for a bit. He's our world champion. He's the man. He is the guy. Go prove yourself. Okay. And he did. So it's like, fuck. They both kind of did the same thing of their own accord. In that moment. To be fair, AJ's was a part of a larger whole, because it was part of the Rumble, and that ended with the awesome almost Ambrose win, Triple H taking it, and it was cool shit during that Rumble. Fuck, I don't want to pick one between these two. That's how crazy this is, because as much as I love AJ, Chris Jericho's entrance is one of the coolest damn things in wrestling. I think I gotta go with Jericho, even though if you asked me 5 minutes ago and you asked me 5 minutes from now, I might say AJ. It's literally that 50-50 for me, but I'm going with Jericho just because that one was about him. AJ was about him in the Rumble as part of a bigger thing, and it almost made that bigger and was better for him because of it. But Chris Jericho was the Millennium Man showing up and going toe-to-toe with The Rock, even though he got shit talked down and Juventud and stuff like that. That was about him purely going with The Rock and hanging and getting, but everyone gets that from The Rock.
Only name Juventud.
Exactly. Everybody gets that from The Rock. He's no different. So got Jericho.
Okay.
In this moment,
Jericho. So Jericho's winning 2-1 over AJ here.
I want a coin flip. I want a coin flip it, Bomber. Make it a coin flip. Make it out of our hands. Do it.
It is possible. We'll see. I'm actually a little slightly undecided going into this, so we'll see how I finish talking.
It's suddenly a weird one, isn't it?
It is pretty difficult. I will say this. Lee made fantastic points. I was leaning, a little stronger towards Jericho until Lee started talking about how, Jericho did good on the mic and stuff, and he did good. AJ came out and actually lasted a long time in the Rumble. He didn't, necessarily make any huge moments in the Rumble. When I go back and think about it, I don't really recall any big things happening in the Rumble, which I think does slightly hold him down a little bit. Yes, The entrance was great. He did go toe to toe with Reigns for a while, which was big, huge moment. Something you just, like we talked about, never thought you would see. AJ fighting Roman fucking Reigns was just so fucking cool to watch. So you got pluses, you got minuses in AJ's. With Jericho's, there's not many minuses. I think I have to go Jericho as well. I think I have to go Jericho. It's funny because I'm not so gung-ho on Jericho stuff like you guys were, but I think it was better than AJ's, as good as AJ's was. So I'm going to go with Jericho. So that is actually going to give Jericho a 3-1. Sorry for the coin toss wishers out there. But
I can see it. Ask me on a different day, I could probably go with Jericho.
Yeah.
It is the more bombastic debut. It's like you get the whole Titantron and the Beastie Boys soundtrack and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, if super tough. That was one of the harder ones for sure that we've had to probably ever do, for me anyway.
If that was a final, it'd have been perfect. However,
I would say, it's supposed to be tough at the end. I think if it's this tough at the end, that means we're doing this right.
That's true.
Yeah.
So here we go. The other semifinal match. We got Kane versus the Radicals. I really did. I mean, I know you guys make fun of me for saying it, but I did not picture the Radicals making it this far.
Same.
I guess I'll jump out first if that kind of gives you a hint here. The Radicals, I've kind of dogged on them this whole tournament. I thought the debut started out great. It was cool seeing them jump in, but man, I thought it floundered at the very, very end. It could be a personal thing on my part that I just, the typical, I think it should have been this way. And that I may be guilty of that, I admit, but I think that the end of their debut kind of just fizzled out, while Kane's from start to finish was fucking strong. So I'm going to go with Kane. I am giving Kane my vote. I guess we'll go with Rab here. We'll go with Scott last since he says he's undecided, or I think that's what you said a second ago. Either way, we'll go with Rab here.
Okay.
All right, I'll take. I've talked a lot about how big the Radicals one is for me, and I think it's a seminal moment of the back half of the Monday Night Wars and when stuff started tipping in the direction of the WWF. I don't think it tipped because of this, but it was a symptom. It was a symptom almost of the things where WCW was doing wrong and letting guys go that should have been important to them, but they didn't really care enough about who left for a better place because WCW was so bad. It was almost a symptom of the war. It was a big part of it. It was an important part of what is a very important thing to me. It was a big part of my childhood. But I think Kane's debut is one of the most impactful, most famous, most well done, most whatever you want to say debuts in WWE history. Just the build up to it, with just the build up of the story to it, of Kane and Undertaker's family. Kane is his brother, who they thought was dead because they all died in a fire, and blah blah blah. And in the end, Kane shows up. It's one of the greatest things. It's when wrestling is done right, is an example of Kane's debut. It's when the storyline is built correctly, and then you get to the end and you get the proper payoff. I mean, it's not really a payoff because it's the beginning, but you get the proper payoff of what you were building up for and waiting and getting that kind of impact. And he comes in and he rips the thing off the cage, so I've got to go with Kane on this one.
All right, 2 for Kane. Lee, what you got here?
So the Radicals is in the context of smart fans playing to that audience, playing to that era, but at the same time it kind of dates it as well in a way, because it's like kind of a thing we've gone past now to a certain degree. I think it's more important to look at it in the context of the fact that it's one of the few didn't feel like convoluted bullshit. Like the storylines afterwards and everything, and we're not talking about that, so it's not important. the debut itself was incredibly impactful, off more perfectly. It was like, here's this monster, and it's like you hadn't really seen that before. Sure, you had some like weird angles here and there. It's like, oh, the Undertaker's urn gets fucked up or whatever, or the Undertaker's used or beaten by somebody on some bullshit terms. But here it's like, here's this guy who can stand up to the Undertaker, and there's a good chance he's going to beat him. And probably one of the best debuts of a character, and one of the best I can think of. Like, it's one that really stands out. Like, the Radicals is great, but I don't think it's anything anyone would like top 10 debuts.
Well,
fucking hold water.
Well, they made it to the Final Four somehow, so that's pretty.
Yeah, well, they beat some really weak opponents. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I can see that.
And Kane is in the mythology of the WWE and the DNA of the WWE. Like, it's really that strong. So I have to go with Kane.
All right, that's 3 for Kane. Scott.
Kane, his is kind of timeless, even though it was a product of its time for being a monster. Excuse me. Early Attitude Era stuff, like late '97, really before Austin took off like a rocket. It was in that rise. So the fact that you had a character like this happening and working was impressive. I do remember it kind of being like, it's yet another monster for The Undertaker. Yeah, it's a personal one, but it was still... people, I remember in 4 or 5 years after, which people were like, oh man, I can't believe this character still works. No one expected it to work. So in that moment when it happened, it was a cool thing, but it was like, it's the latest for him to slay, the latest monster. The Radicals, though, were also a product of their time, with the Monday Night Wars and all that stuff, but it's not timeless like Kane's is. It really goes with the Monday Night War, and if you don't even have a concept of that, the idea is so ridiculously foreign. It's like, so what? Like, there's guys showing up from our other company that we own, NXT. It's kind of like, whatever. So it doesn't hold the same, I feel. And yeah, like Lee said, if you're not smart to it, who the hell are these guys? Like, there's no established story. There's literally story if you read the dirt sheets, knowing about how they left the company a week prior. Okay. So yeah, even though everything I said about Kane did seem like it was almost flash in the pan at the time, it still fucking worked. And then people say Undertaker is the last great gimmick. I think Kane is. So I'm going with Kane on that, because it's so much stronger overall. So yeah.
All right, Kane with a clean sweep in the semifinals over the Radicals. So that means we are at the finals here. We have Chris Jericho versus Kane. Can
I go first on this one?
Yes, you can. Who had?
I just think I'm going to have the least to say.
Okay. Here we go. I was just setting it up, but
sorry.
No,
I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was just who had the greatest WWE debut of all time? Is it Chris Jericho or Kane? Rab, you want to go first? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to have the least to say, so I'm going to kind of clean it up.
Sure, I think we already know as well.
I've said a lot about both. There's been talk about, I didn't think it was going to be this guy or whatever on a lot of these best of the business. If I were to pick from each side right at the beginning of the thing, and even if I had just picked who are my top two, these would be my top two. The opposite of what seems to happen to Bomber all the time.
Yes, I will give you my top two in a minute.
I have no idea how this is happening.
It is not these are not my top two. But yes.
Well, this happens to you every time. But to me, this is exactly how I would have built it out. Mm-hmm. I don't know about down the line, but these are my top two. I do think Jericho's is the best of all time. I've said since the beginning. But I think these are the top two, and I've explained many times why. So Jericho for me.
All right, that is one for Chris Jericho. I guess I'll jump in right now. Yes, I believe from the right side, I did see Kane making it this far. But from the left side, I saw Eric Bischoff. Making it to the finals.
Your fucking mind.
No,
delusional.
No, guys, that
you are out of your fucking mind. Really?
I am not out of my mind.
I can see
I explained
that he
it.
can see it.
I explained.
Well,
I don't know. I
yeah,
feel like
I can
that's
see that.
bad.
I can see that.
no.
You can see it.
I can see that a crazy
You thought
person
it
can
was
see
gonna
it. Yeah.
Bischoff and Goldberg.
Okay,
Where-
Goldberg was better.
WCW Mark that doesn't even like Vader. You fucker.
Time out. Goldberg was better than the Radicals. I understand that. Now, Bischoff.
You thought
Bischoff.
it was going to be Bischoff and Goldberg.
No, it wasn't. It was going to be Bischoff and Kane is what I pictured. Again, yes, unfortunately, these never seem to pan out the way I assume they're going to pan out. But
Which is always fun when you build these lists going, these are the greatest ones, and we're like,
And,
the
yeah,
fuck is
and-
that name doing there?
Exact-
And now on Patreon you get to hear that, so that's the selling feature there. But yeah.
So, anyway, Bischoff didn't make it, but this would be a whole different discussion for me right now if Bischoff was in here. But he is not, and you know what? I am, to make a long story short, I am going to go with Kane for my pick. Kane, to me, is I don't want to say light years better than Jericho's debut, but I feel Kane's debut is by far the best in the whole tournament. It was better than Bischoff's. It was better than Jericho's. It was better than everybody's. I think Kane had the absolute best debut of all time. He came in with a beautiful backstory. He came in looking like the red and black, the mask, the hair, everything. He came out with a pallbearer. Everything was, to me, this was the absolute perfect debut ever. If one comes along better than this, I'll be surprised. But Kane's debut to me was picture perfect from top to bottom. No faults, no weaknesses. He looked strong. He ripped the goddamn door off the cage. He came in, destroyed Taker, and was a huge, important moment in that match and in history. Jericho's debut, yes, it was a big moment. It got a huge pop. It was a good mystery, like the Y2K that was solved, and the look of the arms stretched out, very memorable, but still, to me, just not as big or as great as Kane's debut. So that is why I am going with Kane.
Bummer.
Yes.
The way I feel hearing you talk about how Bischoff's is light years ahead of Jericho's.
No. I said Kane's in Jericho's.
Yeah, but you also thought Bischoff was the second one.
I did think
and you
Bischoff's.
probably thought it was close.
I would have had
Bischoff's is clearly ahead of Jericho's. Hearing you say that, I assume that's how you feel hearing anyone else.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like when you're always going like, oh man, wow, I'm really surprised. I don't. Okay.
Oh, I think other people think the way I think sometimes?
Yeah, that's how I feel right now.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you guys throw me a curveball. I will admit that. I did not see Eric Bischoff losing to Kevin Owens. That's for sure. But he did. It just happens. Everybody's got different tastes. That's the beauty about Best in the Business. That is the beauty about it.
Mentally retarded.
I mean, there you go. So anyways, Lee is speaking. So Lee, let's see what you got. Scott, you're going to be the determining factor here, so you better get ready.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
All right.
Good.
So
you think there's going to be a coin flip here?
I mean, there could be. There could be
about me not being decided on Kane and Radicals.
You're out of your fucking mind. I think you're out of your fucking mind, Bomber.
Okay.
Light years.
I said
these are both incredibly strong debuts. No doubt. They've gotten this far, and I think they've earned their fucking keep here to get to the finals. Works for the moment. I think it does. It is like a classic WWF, WWE moment. It works for its era. It is indicative of that era, I think. It's very much in tune with what was going on at the time. And it's fucking badass. Chris Jericho feels like the fucking future. It feels, I think I said the term sea change earlier on in the discussion. Or maybe it was the Patreon discussion, I can't remember. But it was like the fucking future. And it's amazing to see him on a platform where it's like, yeah, Chris Jericho can finally be himself and be a main event fucking guy. And the whole sort of video package and the song and his pose and the shit talking he did with The Rock and everything. slightly edges over Kane. I think it does. Because it just feels like it's more progressive than what Kane was. Kane is more of a old gimmick. It's more of a gimmick that real forward momentum for it. It's more of a monster that's going to feud. It's probably going to be the best monster to feud with The Undertaker, no doubt. With Chris Jericho, it's like the sky's the fucking limit. So I have to go with Chris Jericho for the debut.
Okay.
I just think the potential there was greater.
All right. So that's 2 for Jericho, 1 for Kane. Scott, you are the final vote. What are you going with, Chris Jericho or Kane, for the greatest debut?
Well, Kane's, like I said, was timeless, of the moment as well, but it does work. Like, you look at other similar moments where Brock Lesnar came back and beat up Cena or things like that. Like, you go for the top dog, you take him out. Or you come close like Cena with his debut, blah, blah. Tried and true. 97, it's a classic thing that they do. It worked well, but it tied in with the story, etc., etc., etc. The Chris Jericho debut is also timeless because you come out there and you talk shit to the biggest guy out there, and it works as well. Kevin Owens did that, 4 years ago to John Cena. Still works today. Kane's debut is one of the most memorable, but I gotta say Jericho's is just better in my eyes. I like it better from every angle, honestly. I wouldn't say it's light years better. I still don't understand why you think that Kane's, you didn't want to say light years, but you were implying, is light years over Jericho. I don't think Jericho's is light years over Kane, but it is,
I agree.
Like I said early on, definitively one of the single best ones there is. We've said before with our brackets how sometimes the best one doesn't make it because of the way the bracket works, but I'm kind of happy this one worked out because I honestly saw Jericho in the final and I was curious who it would be against, and I'm not surprised it's Kane. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I wouldn't have any problem if people said Kane and Kane won this. I get that. I get you. But Jericho, for me, is the one I'm picking.
I also
so.
get those people.
Yeah.
I will say I'm not mad or anything. Jericho, fantastic debut. There's no taking that away from him. So, bottom line, the votes are in 3-1. Chris Jericho is the winner, and deemed by us, the Jobber Radio crew. I don't know, the Jobbers, I guess. I don't know. Chris Jericho gets the win. So there you go. Greatest debut of all time.
I gotta tell you, pal, I'm just glad that fucking woman didn't win.
Jesus Christ. Paige, I thought it would have been Kane versus Paige over there, but
it's fine. Don't worry.
Get in the kitchen, Paige.
God,
no, dude, Benoit took her out.
Besides me.
Oh my God.
Because I don't think anyone else in this
Make me a sandwich, Paige.
I mistakenly was speaking over the Raiden, the blade.
Male, you are talking over the alpha male.
Yes.
Paige, make me a sandwich.
So,
Rab, alpha male.
Rab, you were saying what? Yeah, where's Monty Brown in here? Wait, was he the alpha?
Did anybody other than me, off the bat, think that Jericho was the best one on the list?
Yeah. I was leaning toward that myself. I thought AJ might have a shot, but Jericho was my odds-on favorite. It's no Bischoff, but you know.
Yeah, I was leaning towards maybe AJ or Jericho was kind of like where I was thinking it was going.
Okay.
I want to think that if AJ was on the other side, that would have been our final. Jericho and AJ.
Bomber, if it was Kane and Bischoff, who would you have taken?
I would have taken Kane. Kane, to me, I think... as I said in the thing, I think he was definitely my my top going in, and as it played out, I think it would have been a little bit tougher if it was Bischoff because of how huge that moment was in wrestling history. Kane's wasn't as big in wrestling history, but the moment still felt bigger than Bischoff.
But you don't want to look at it in wrestling history. You want to look at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean,
moments are imprinted in history. I understand what he's saying.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, what was leading up to it? Like the fact that
bigger.
The Bischoff moment happened with the history behind it. Cool.
Yeah.
the Kane moment happened with a story history behind it, cool. But like, where it went, that's not what the point was.
Yeah, no, the Kane thing.
No, because we have talked about the impactfulness.
Yes,
and that has to do with where it went.
Yeah, that's true.
And let's face.
I still make the argument that if it wasn't for that kind of thinking, the Undertaker shouldn't have been on the list at all because it wasn't a very good debut.
And let's face facts. Bischoff sort of had like the luxurious hair of a woman, and there's no way a woman could have won in these brackets. So I mean, he was going to lose.
Easy E, baby. Easy.
Well, so does AJ. Maybe that's why AJ.
That's true. He's got the soccer mom hair.
Soccer mom hair is what got him.
Yep.
He didn't win. Yeah.
Yep. That's what it was.
What can you say? Men win, women lose.
There. Well, there it is. Oh, we're gonna
Lee's book.
Yeah, that is a great title for a book. So there it is. We're gonna end on that high note. Thank you, Redhead12, who hit our Patreon mark to request this topic. If you guys want to request this topic, head on over to patreon.com/JobberRadio and become a supporter. Hit that tier. I believe it's called Give Me What I Want. And I assume you know what that's from. First of all, there it is. Thank you, Red. And guys, that's it. Let's get the hell out of here. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, yes, you will.